Ted Christopher made his mark across all levels of racing as a two-time NASCAR champion, a multi-time track champion, and competitor in the Rolex 24 Hours. He thrilled fans in New England over the years and will be remembered as one of the most successful drivers in the history of New Hampshire Motor Speedway. At this time, we ask that you join us in a moment of silence to honor Ted Christopher. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the New Hampshire Air Guard and Active Duty Air Force Color Guard presents our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Pastor Joshua Johnson offers our invocation.
Our Father who is in the heavens, would you forgive us for our rebellions? Would you be near to those who have been affected by the hurricanes and the earthquakes and the fires today? Would you continue to raise up helpers for them? Would you be near to these drivers and their teams today as they compete? We ask these things according to your will, Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus, by the power of your Holy Spirit. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome Marine Corps veteran, the singing trooper, Daniel M. Clark.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched was so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
The roar of the crowd tells the story. They're ready for some great racing here in New Hampshire.
Everybody ready, set, go. Rev it up and let's roll. There's a party in the fast lane. Got my hands on the wheel and I'm flying. Heartbeat loud as the thunder rolls. Riding in on the stampede of lightning. I'm bringing back the sunshine. Bringing back the sunshine. Baby, it's about time. Oh, bring it back. Oh,
It's NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series racing on NBCSN from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the ISM Connect 300. For the storylines we're going to be keeping our eyes on all day, we go down to Marty Snyder.
Rick, no driver in the field maybe loves short track racing more than Denny Hamlin. In fact, he loves it so much that last night he flew from New Hampshire to Martinsville, Virginia to watch the biggest late model stock race of the year. Got back at 2 a.m. and he told me earlier this week, New Hampshire's just a big short track to me. That's why we're so successful here, hoping for more success at what he considers a short track today, Parker.
Well, Marty, Jimmie Johnson comes in this race on the heels of a well-executed 8th place finish at Chicagoland. But when I talked to him earlier, I asked him one question. How does this playoff compare to last year? And the bad news for the rest of the field, he told me this feels exactly the same. We were slow in the summer, and then we started to turn it on when the playoffs happened. Kelly, he'll roll off 12th.
Well, Kyle Larson can secure his spot in round 2 a couple of ways. Of course, a win, but also on points. This team, however, wants to get to victory lane. Kyle Larson will start from the front row alongside Kyle Busch. It's time now for the command.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, the moment has arrived. Round 2 of the round of 16 of the playoffs. Here to give the command to start engines, please welcome your Grand Marshal, Chief Technology Officer for ISM Connect, Mark Del Vecchio.
Drivers, start your engines!
As we heard on pit road, there's 2 ways to make it into the next round. You win and you advance. But the guys right now that are on the bubble, those that are separated by just 20 points, 20 positions, they're fighting for every spot on the track. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Ford. We go further so you can. And by Bank of America. Life better connected.
Not just put the blinders on to everything else and block out the noise and focus on what we're doing.
Martin Truex Jr. wins at Chicagoland.
We have that confidence in what we're doing, and it's working.
Guys are the best, man. No doubt about it.
Playoffs bring out your best performance. It makes everybody on the team rise to the occasion.
Handling pressure well and coming out on top. It's the key to success in any sport.
The chance is what you're wanting. You want that opportunity to step up.
Hamlin, he's going to hold off Larson. Hamlin wins in 2017.
The competition is so good. Everyone steps up when it comes to playoff time.
16 drivers fought for the chance. They have 2 more opportunities to advance to the round of 12, and it starts today. Let's take a look at today's starting grid, brought to you by Nationwide. Up front, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. 2 drivers we're expecting to make it into the round of 12. When we look at row 2, this is where the handicapping comes into play. What about Ryan Blaney?
Yeah, Ryan Blaney has never had a top 10 here, but based on practice yesterday, many believe he's the guy that could win this race today.
Yeah, a couple more favorites make up row 3, but when I look back in row 4, Kurt Busch, currently 13th in points, just below the cut line, trying to find a little momentum after a 19th last week. And right behind him in row 5, Casey Kane as well, 15th in the points. Not a very good run at Chicago, but has shown speed this weekend. Can he claw his way back in the playoff picture?
Row 6, we have 6-time champion going for his 7th, Jimmie Johnson. And Jamie Mcmurray, consistency is going to be the key for him. Row 7, Keselowski and Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott in a backup car on a week where he lost his crew chief, lost points, going to have to rally.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Clint Boyer make up row 8. Dale Jr. making his final start here in New Hampshire. But back in row 9, 2 playoff contenders, the RCR teammates, both looking for gains, both in the risk of missing the playoffs. While it was great to make the playoffs, they both want to make the round of 12.
In row 10, we have Paul Menard, AJ Allmendinger. Neither one of these guys is in the playoff chase.
Back in row 11, David Reagan and Chris Buescher. Again, this is unique in sports in the fact that the playoffs are on, but there are competitors that are not in the playoffs right on the same playing field.
Yeah, row 12, we see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. trying to recover from a bad week after Chicago race.
Yeah, back in row 14, we have Danica Patrick, Landon Castle. Big news from Danica Patrick a few weeks ago, and now she wouldn't be back at Stewart-Haas Racing. Still no word, though, will she'll be driving in 2018.
Almirola, Ty Dillon making up 15. Row 16, Michael McDowell. He's looking for a ride in 2018. His ride went away from 2017. Cole Witt will be on the outside of that row. LaJoy and Gaulding making up 17. 18 is Reed Sorensen and Brett Moffitt.
And all the way at the back of the field, Rick, Joey Logano will be in row 20. Remember, he didn't even get a chance to attempt a qualifying run this weekend.
It's time to dial in one of the favorites for this race. He won in July. That's Denny Hamlin. Let's see if we can chat with him.
Hey, Denny, it's Burton up in the booth. You with us?
10-4.
Well, you got really tough conditions today. The track's hot. Got that sticky stuff placed on the racetrack. Tell us how that's going to change your output for today.
Well, the track will definitely be different than most of the practices we went through. Maybe the last 20-30 minutes of happy hour is probably not the only useful thing, but I thought we had a really good car in the long run. I think that'll be important today as tires wear out, as the racetrack wears out. So everything kind of points to the way that I typically run these races, and hopefully have a good day.
Well, Denny, you've been so good on these kind of racetracks. What is it going to take today to get this win?
I think execution in a fast car. I thought that we executed perfectly last time we came here. Some guys that had faster cars, stepped up. They stepped up and missed their execution, and we took over and won the race. I think this time around you're going to have both.
All right, Denny, we sure appreciate it. Thanks for letting us ride along. Good luck today.
10-4.
Yeah, Denny and his team, they're so nice to let us ride along, and with him is a Toyota cam, so we're going to get some great shots from Denny's car today.
Yeah, Kurt Busch will also carry an onboard camera. He'll have the Ford Performance onboard. The 88, Dale Earnhardt Jr., as I mentioned, last start here in New Hampshire, starting in row 8 with a nationwide onboard camera.
And a hot day like today, a Coca-Cola can could be useful for Ryan Newman, another car with some great shots.
Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. And it is, as I mentioned before, a gorgeous day. The sun beating down on the racetrack, probably going to be the warmest race ever here in the fall that has ever taken place at Loudon, New Hampshire. Temperatures are supposed to be creeping near 90 degrees today. So a very warm race day here in the fall. As we break down this race,
yeah, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Magic Mile. Well, it's just barely over a mile, 300 laps, about 317 miles total, but that gets broken down into 3 stages. Both the first and second stage, 75 laps each. The final stage, 150 laps. The car should be able to go 85 to 90 on fuel, but conversation all weekend about this PJ1, basically the sticky stuff. They spray it on the racetrack to change the racing lines, and restarts, restarts, restarts. This race always seems to come down to restarts.
and I mentioned one of the hottest. It is already the hottest. It's 87 degrees. As you look at some of the other races here that were warm on this, the second event here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, but 87 degrees already. So things are heating up in this, the second race of the playoffs. Up front, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson making up row one. Green flag is in the air on race 2 of the playoffs. Fanning out, trying to be 3 wide, going into turn number 3. Denny Hamlin in the 11 on the bottom. Ryan Blaney taking advantage of the middle line in the 21. So Blaney moves up into that second spot.
Already, Rick, we're starting to see those two very distinct lines. You see the 78 of Mart Truex Jr. all the way at the bottom of the racetrack using that grip, that sticky stuff they sprayed at the bottom, while the 42 of Kyle Larson trying to use the groove up top a little bit higher on the racetrack.
And they reapplied that substance this morning, so these teams and drivers, they really don't know the grip it has just yet. They're trying to learn that under green flag conditions.
And Kyle Larson going from the high line down to the low line. He has been sideways already at both ends of the racetrack. Again, Larson started second, but already he has fallen back to the 5th position, trying to get a handle on that car. As I mentioned, sideways coming out of the turns. Take a look at this.
See, he's trying to turn, trying to make it a little bit straighter exit, and as he turns the wheel under throttle, the back end just doesn't stick. So Kyle Larson early in the race struggling with rear grip.
And it's more than just the time you lose, Rick. You lose a little tire life. Jeff, these tires seem to have a memory. If you spin a tire or slide a tire, it doesn't come back 100%. You have definitely taken some life out of it.
It's a great shot from the Toyota cam. Looking on the back bumper of Denny Hamlin's car, you can clearly see the 2 grooves. So Denny Hamlin right now is in the top groove. See how black it is? Below him is the gray, and then below that again is another line. That's where this sticky substance has been applied to the racetrack.
And that was applied by the track. That wasn't mandated by NASCAR. The track decided we want to make a multiple groove racetrack out of one that normally had a preferred groove. They're trying to give these drivers options so that they can get by someone.
And it's going to change. Those grooves are going to change, but I think this is one of the coolest shots to really see the surface. This is just underneath the left front headlight on the Toyota driven by Denny Hamlin. So you see not just the grooves, but see the seams, every imperfection in the asphalt. That's what the drivers have to deal with. So now we're heading down into turn 1 on the brakes, and you just see how really smooth the racetrack is. Not a lot of bumps, but you're looking for that traction of that darker asphalt.
And watch the approach the drivers are taking. Some drivers are entering that sticky substance with all 4 tires. Some drivers are entering a little bit below it and drifting into it. So 2 different strategies. Junior trying to make the upper lane work. You can see right there the left side's below it. Now the right side's in it. Never completely got all 4 tires in it.
But look at the mess he's in. This is New Hampshire. This is New Hampshire at its finest. Even if you have a faster race car, where is Dale Earnhardt Jr. going to go? He's going to try to work to the outside of the 3 of Austin Dillon, see if he can try to get to his right rear quarter panel. He's unable to. Now he's going to try to cross him over. As you see Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. battle on the right side of your screen. It looks like, oh, we'll go 3 wide back here.
Well, you can see what happens at New Hampshire. Austin Dillon had trouble leaving the corner. Dale Earnhardt Jr. took advantage of it, or trying to, and Daniel Suarez took advantage of it as well. That's what New Hampshire is. If you cannot stay in the throttle, cannot carry the momentum, and keep it up, you're going to lose spots. That was essentially a 2-spot loss for Austin Dillon.
Martin Truex Jr. on the right side of the screen has taken third away from Denny Hamlin, so it's Kyle Busch out front. Ryan Blaney is running second. Then Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson running fifth.
And Rick, you just gave 5 playoff names. I'll go 2 farther. Casey Kane and Kevin Harvick. So Marty currently playoff contenders taking the front 7 positions of this race.
Hey, Steve, that's no surprise, I think, to anyone. It's also no surprise that we've talked a lot about the heat. I have a really unofficial count. I think we've mentioned it about 40 times. So rather than running from the heat, the Team Penske crew guys on the left, there you see they're working out in the heat in those uniforms. So for these crew guys, they're down here all day long on a record-setting heat day here in Loudon, New Hampshire, and they have to wear these fire suits all day. So I know it's tough on the crew guys. They've got to make 5 to 6 stops today in this heat. Parker, what's it like for a driver behind the wheel?
Well, Marty, that's the thing. If you're one of those cars running up front, it's necessarily easy. That's why you work out. That's why you work on the cooling mechanisms within the car. But for the drivers, especially in the playoffs, they're struggling with their race car. This is when mental toughness becomes key. You've got to be able to put it out of your mind that it's hot. You've got to be able to focus on the race car and the task at hand. But the heat creeps in at times and can get you very frustrated, Jeff.
Yeah, about the 22 car making a strong run. He had started in the back of the field, so he's worked himself up all the way to 17th spot. So a good start for Joey Logano and his team.
And once again, the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting this playoff race, getting into the wall again. He did it at Chicagoland. It required him to come to pit road. He made a mistake when he came to pit road, and already now you see the 17 slamming into the wall. He made the comment to us earlier, I can't make mistakes, and already a difficult situation for the 17 team.
Well, you instantly see why he said that when you look at the playoff leaderboard. There you see it, the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. all the way down in the 16th position. And it's not just position, but it's points, 25 points. You head to Dover, 25 points below the cut line. You're looking at a must-win situation. But you said it, Rick. Same picture, different week. At Chicago, we saw the same thing out of the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., which is a car that he did not like how it drove all weekend long, and early in the race, he gets up and makes contact with the wall.
In that contact, he made the decision to come on pit road, and then when he came on pit road, he did not make the commitment box, so ended up getting penalized. So in an effort to be safe and say, hey, let's make sure we don't cut a tire, he made the call, come on pit road, but then didn't get slowed down enough to get below the commitment line and got penalized. Marty.
And Jeff, a lot of frustrated people down here in the 17 pit, as you might imagine, and what they're doing right now. Stenhouse did tell him he did get in the wall. They do not see any tire smoke, though, from a tire rub. They're working on pictures. So, Steve, tell us what the team is doing, trying to find pictures of that right side to see how bad the damage is.
Well, pictures have been a hot topic all week about other cars and competitors' cars, but you can also use it as an advantage to yourself, Rick. There are photographers all around the racetrack. Every team on pit road can get live pictures of their car during the action, assess the damage before they make the decision to come to pit road.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. already digging a hole for himself at Loudon. Spotters working hard, keeping track of their drivers today. The spotter coverage is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. Out front, it's Kyle Busch. Running second now is Martin Truex Jr., who's able to get by Ryan Blaney. Then it's Denny, Hamlin, and Kyle Larson, the top 5.
Yeah, big challenge for the spotters today is going to be this multiple grooves. We've seen, right now, this front group, they're running the top. They're running all the way in this third lane. You can see that black strip, that's where they're running. But when we move to the back of the field where they're contesting each other, they're running the bottom of the racetrack. So the spotters giving that information to the teams, letting the drivers know where their competition are, that's going to really help as the day moves forward.
Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. right now separated by just over 1 second. And it's been the march of Martin Truex Jr. toward the front that I'm sure Kyle Busch is keeping his eye on, because he wants to be able to win the first stage. And it's a 75-lap stage, 54 laps to go, but they won't need to come to pit road for fuel. So if a caution doesn't come out, Kyle Busch needs to stay out in front of that 78 if he wants to earn valuable points and a potential playoff point.
Yeah, but you're talking about the guys at the front of the leaderboard. They're talking about just a single playoff point. How about these cars down at the bubble? The 41 of Kurt Busch, the 1 of Jamie McMurray. They are right in the thick of it. These guys are trying to decide who moves on and who doesn't when the series leaves Dover in a week. And currently they're running right next to each other on the racetrack, as McMurray looks like he's going to lose a spot to the 48 of Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah, Jimmie Johnson just got by the 1 car, Jamie McMurray. Then Jamie McMurray turned to left and tried to get back underneath him, but just couldn't make it stick.
Kelly.
Another driver trying to improve his playoff position is the 31 of Ryan Newman. After a disappointing race in Chicago, he was actually at the bottom of the playoff standings as they run. You see he's moved up position, but that hasn't really helped his case. He did, however, say that there's probably no other track he'd rather come to for a good rebound than New Hampshire. He's got 3 wins here, although it's been a little bit of time. But this team, as Ryan said on Friday, this team still has a lot of fight left in them.
Rick, here's the battle of the playoffs. Very simply, Ryan Newman running 14th. Not that bad, not that great. But, guess what? He's, 13th of the playoff cars. So even 14th on the racetrack, he's being beat by 12 other playoff cars. That's just how tough the competition is in this round of 16. You
can see right here why it's so hard to pass. Daniel Suarez got underneath the 31 and then just overdrove the entry, went up the racetrack. Then Ryan Newman made a shot at him, tried to get the spot back, but just couldn't make that bottom work. That's why it's so difficult to pass at this racetrack. It's just getting enough grip, leaving these corners on the bottom. That is the largest challenge. Parker.
Oh, guys, one guy who's really struggling with that is the 5 car you see there, Casey Kane, battling Brad Keselowski right now for 9th position. He got as high as 6th, was knocking on the door of 5th. He said the car fired off great, but since has started to fall back, just getting free off the corners right now in that 5. And that 2 car being right up on that tail is not going to help things there. One thing he's been working on is trying to adjust his line. You talked about being able to use that bottom to drive off the corner, Jeff, and that's what you're seeing the 2 do there to him. He can't do it, Marty.
Right behind him, Brad Keselowski hanging in there in the top 10 as we ride along with Kurt Busch right behind that fun battle. Keselowski going to try and shoot low and get underneath Casey Kane. And Steve, this is the interesting battle with the playoffs here for the 2 teams. Paul Wolf told me this morning, listen, we're probably a top 10 car right now. We tried some things in practice that really didn't seem to work for our race car, but I don't want to mess with the car too much. Right now, 10th is good enough for us. I'm fine if we finish top 10 today. And that's really what you have to do. Managing your playoffs as a team, probably a bigger key than anyone talks about, isn't it, Steve?
Well, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to manage your playoffs, and no team comes to mind more than this 5 of Casey Kane. They've made a crew chief change trying to manage this playoff. They are trying to find a way to improve and try to gain those points to advance, as we see Mart Truex Jr. has closed down on the leader, the 18 of Kyle Busch.
It was just a few laps ago I made the comment that they were separated by a second. Well, we just saw the nose of the 78 get to the inside of the 18 and let Kyle Busch know, by the way, here I come. Martin Truex Jr. and this team are really dialed in right now as far as their focus to win this championship. They don't want to just go out, win a race, know that they're going to advance to the round of 12. They want to go out and win every race and make a statement.
Well, now Kyle Busch out there, as you said, that gap has closed, but while he had a second plus on Martin Truex Jr., he's been trying different lines. Meanwhile, his spotter keeping him abreast of all the moves of the 78. At one point, they're telling Kyle to keep his entry a little bit rounder. He got his 8th pole position here of the season. That's a personal best for him. Now he says, it's great to have these good Fridays. We got to turn them into good Sundays by staying out, leading all day, as you see the 78 now trying to make a move inside.
Trying that inside line for the lead, not able to make the pass work. We saw there the 18, the back end kicked out on Kyle Busch, and that gives the opportunity back to the 78 of Mart Truex Jr. to close that gap. When those rear wheels don't lock up and give them rear grip, then the 78 wants to take advantage of that. Once again it happens, and here comes the 78 looking to the inside.
78 going to go all the way to the bottom left sides on that yellow line. That's where that sticky stuff is on the bottom. But can you make it work on corner exit? It's great through the middle, but once again, not enough grip on corner exit.
How does he set him up? Is Mart Truex Jr. letting him choose the line, or is he setting him up by trying to go a certain line and making Kyle Busch decide where should I go to block?
So there's a passive lane and there's a speed lane. So right now what Martin Truex has to be doing is running whatever line he does that makes his car the fastest. And then when he gets to him, he's got to try to catch Kyle at a place where he's not good and then try to make that move then. But you can see the problem is that outside lane is so good rolling the middle that it's hard to make any ground. You can get there, but then finishing off on the exit is almost impossible at the moment. I think that's going to change, Steve, as this race goes on.
Well, it is going to change. That sticky stuff is going to wear off, but this also shows you just what type of rhythm racetrack this is. They're right on the edge. There's a ton of grip in that darker black area, but we saw cars in practice right here on corner entry get their right sides above it. They've gone all the way up and made contact with the wall, so you got to be very, very careful.
Great battle for the lead continuing here. It is a 3-second gap between this battle and all the way back to third. Here is an exclusive look at the new NBC show, The Brave, premiering tomorrow night at 10, 9 Central. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Monster Energy, Unleash the Beast, Toyota, let's go places, and by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. Well, it's playoff time, so gear up with the pit crew and get the latest NASCAR t-shirts, hats, die-cast at the NASCAR shop. You can visit NASCAR.com/shop today for all your favorite drivers' gear. The battle for the lead has continued And it is entertaining right here watching Martin Truex Jr. try to find a way around the 18 of Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch continues to make that 18 as wide as possible and not give Martin Truex Jr. a line for him to get by. See the battle for fifth on the right side. Erik Jones trying to take the spot away from the 11 as once again Martin Truex Jr. dives to the inside, and now he'll take away the lead.
Yeah, Busch missed the middle of the corner. He drove into turn 3 and got out of the top groove. Ended up in the debris and just had to slow down. So just a little bit too much effort from Kyle Busch right there trying to carry too much speed. Martin Truex Jr. took advantage of it.
Well, we talked a few laps ago, Jeff, just how difficult it is and how on the edge of grip these cars are. And if you get outside of that dark with the right side tires right there, once the 18 leaves that dark pavement, the grip goes down substantially. He basically has to slow down or he's going to make contact with the wall. He's really fortunate that's all the time he lost. We saw cars in practice, the 24 and the 48, hit the wall when they made that big of an issue there, Marty.
And Steve, is starting to sound like a broken record, isn't it? The 78 good on a long run. That's what's made them so good at getting these stage points in 2017. Martin at another one of his home racetracks. He's won here before. His father, Martin, also has won here before. And his brother, Ryan, has won here before. But he's never won here in the Cup Series. That sticks in his craw a little bit. Jeff, I know we joke about it, but how many home racetracks does Martin Truex Jr. have? He's leading laps at home once again here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, Dover, New Hampshire, I mean, everywhere we go, that's his home track. So, you know, listen, no surprise, Martin Truex Jr., the 78 team, have taken the lead with 33 to go in this stage. This is what they've made a living of. They've had fast race cars all year long, and here again in New Hampshire again as well.
I want to listen in on spotter communication from the 18 team who just lost the lead there.
Martin's able to keep the roundness gray there for in dark black. Got the right rear under him a little bit better. You can drive in and free roll the speed with the right rear attached. You got a little bit free. It looks a little free on entry.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. One of my favorite movies of all times is Top Gun. And one of the comments in there is talking about the call sign Iceman, one of the pilots on that movie. And they said, why is he called Iceman? Well, he has ice in his veins. He doesn't make a mistake. And that was a situation that just built there between those two cars. Martin Truex Jr. was waiting for an opening, a mistake. He has ice in his veins, not making a mistake, waiting for somebody else to make a mistake. When they do, he pounces on them and takes the lead away.
Well, it's easy to have ice in your veins when you have the fastest car, and that's what I think the 78 has. You just heard that spotter communication, basically just explaining to the 18 team where they think the 78 is better. Kelly?
And just as Martin Truex Jr. was making the pass around Kyle Busch, Kyle was actually busy giving some feedback for his car's handling to his crew chief, Adam Stevens. He just said he was just too loose through the center. He said at one point it was a four-wheel drift through the center. The 18, he said, fired off loose and was initially trending freer and freer. He's been using that track bar inside the cockpit, lowering it down, trying to help that a bit. He mentioned he thought maybe he fired off too free because of too much air pressure in the tires.
Well, Jeff, if I was too free at lap 45 of a 300-lap race at New Hampshire, I would just sit back and wait, because my notes say this place tightens up and continues to tighten up over all 300 laps. Parker?
Well, guys, I think I know why Kyle Busch may have been in a four-wheel drift. Listen to Kevin Harvick here, who's fallen back to 8th, describe the track conditions.
Looks slimy as hell out there. You get out of the groove just a little bit, it's screwed. This thing I see, I mean, I might be wrong, but it's like we can't get to that grip strip with all 4 tires coming off. So we're kind of in limbo land on grip for a while.
And the voice you heard there was actually Rodney Childers. He's not the only one to use the word slimy. I heard the 41 team's crew chief, Tony Gibson, describe the racetrack as slimy. And I think, Jeff, we got to describe or explain what is slimy. Well, slimy just means lack of grip, right? That's when you go off in the corner and the car, whatever it wants to do, if it wants to be tight, if it wants to be loose, it just does it and you're in for the slide, right?
Yeah, Parker, that's a product of the heat. It's just so hot today, the track temps up, and that's all it is. It's just no grip on the racetrack, and these cars are sliding around. You can see, you know, it's 88 degrees, 88 in July. Well, this isn't a summer race. It's supposed to be cooler. This is the hottest race ever this time of year. So just very unusual. That track temp, 119 degrees. That's pretty hot.
And by far the hottest we've seen all weekend, Jeff. I mean, Friday was pretty overcast. Saturday it got warm, but both practices were earlier in the day.
One of the things that we mentioned throughout the weekend as we were looking at this race, we thought the July race might be an anomaly, because normally in this race you have a few cautions in the first half, and then the second half of the race there is a plethora of cautions. Well, in the July race, there were way less cautions in the second half of the race than there were in the first half of the race. And already going into this first stage with just 26 laps to go, knowing a caution is coming up, everything has been, well, fairly calm as far as nobody being too aggressive trying to make a pass, nobody being too aggressive entering the turns. And so a caution-free race up to this point, already 49 laps in, there hasn't been any issues on the track. Are we going to see that type of racing now here today?
Well, I think we've seen some very aggressive moves, people trying to pass each other. We've seen, we've seen a lot of passing in the pack. There's no, I mean, they just have been. You cannot afford to be in a wreck right now. You just can't afford it. Well, these guys in the playoffs, they can't afford to be in a wreck, but they're racing hard because they know that they have to finish in front of the people. Look what the top 12 is.
Right.
The top 12, there's only one guy, Erik Jones, that isn't in the playoffs. So having a good day in 12th, that means there's still 10 guys you're racing in front of you for the playoffs. So you're going to have to step it up. You're going to have to find a way to be in front of these people that you're racing for the championship.
Brad Keselowski just in front of Jimmie Johnson. Out in front, though, it's Martin Truex Jr. trying to win for the first time at his home track in the Cup Series. Catch all the action of NASCAR on NBC with the NBC Sports app. You can get closer with alternate camera angles, driver stats, and track information anytime, anywhere. Martin Truex Jr. leads the ISM Connect 300 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and Martin Truex Jr. has made it known that it's definitely difficult when you are in a race car and the heat is very high. And right now it's 88 degrees here, which matches the temperature in the July race. It is the hottest ever autumn race at New Hampshire. Here's what Martin Truex Jr. had to say about the heat in the car.
The feeling, I mean, sometimes you just feel like you want to explode. I mean, it's so hot in there, 140 degrees. You know, at times you can get headaches and things like that because it's so hot. But having to keep that mental focus, having to keep that car on the edge at 100% all the time. You can't just say, oh, I need a timeout, I need a break. There is no breaks. You take a break, you're hitting the wall.
Amazing stuff these drivers go through in the heat of these race cars. 130, 140 degrees inside the car, as he mentioned. I asked Cole Pern, I said, hey, it's hot today. Did you do anything extra for Martin inside the car? He said, no, not really. He said, we knew on paper it was going to be this hot, but until we felt it, we didn't know it was going to be this warm. As you see hottest September race ever and a record for this area, as we mentioned, for the Loudon, New Hampshire area. But the one thing Cole Pearn did point to is the right side of the car. He said, see that? Because we're at a mile track, there is no window in the right side of the car. That gives the driver a lot more fresh air. So I'm sure, Jeff, that's a huge advantage. If we were somewhere at a 1.5-mile racetrack and it was this warm, it'd be a completely different story. But it's still hot inside that race car, no doubt.
Well, it is hot, and you do have that right side window out. But what you don't have at 1.5 miles is if you don't have brake heat, you don't have the heat transmitting into the race car. So there's so much brake use here. It's just hotter. The short tracks have hotter race cars because all that heat, transmission, rear end, brakes, all those things are hotter on short track, and that heat gets transferred right into the cockpit.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the 88 is back in 21st position right now. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. hoping that he could have a better run in his final run here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Marty?
And Rick, I think they're a little surprised by that. Junior told me on Friday, he said, man, we have a race car that will really compete on Sunday. They've gone backwards since the drop of the green flag, but the retirement tour continues, and at New Hampshire, they gave him a very unique New England gift. It is a Revolutionary War Garb they handed to him on Friday. He even got a musket included with all that Revolutionary War Garb that Junior got. And they also made a donation to the Injury Prevention Center of New Hampshire in honor of Dale Earnhardt Jr. So Revolutionary War Garb. I don't think you ever got a Revolutionary War suit, did you, Jeff, in your final year of racing?
No, I didn't. Also, something Dale Jr. got is he got some fender damage. You can see that left front fender looked like it was buckled up a little bit.
Like maybe some contact either on that left front as we take a look at what they were able to give Dale Jr. here in his final run.
That's a legit musket, by the way, guys, just in case you wanted to know.
I'm sure that we will hear about Dale Jr. firing the musket somewhere on his property at some point down the road.
So you mentioned that damage. If you look at the left front tire, we'll see as he goes through 1 and 2, we'll see the inside. Well, you see it right there. Little wrinkle in front, a bigger wrinkle behind. I don't know if he got in the back of somebody or if just the splitter hitting the racetrack has buckled that fender, but definitely some damage there they're going to want to look at on the pit stop. This, even though it's a 1-mile track, aerodynamics still very important, and that's not going to help that 88 car.
Under 12 laps to go. At the end of stage 1, it's Martin Truex Jr. He has a 2.5-second lead over second place Kyle Larson. there's nothing like attending a NASCAR race, and now the playoffs should be full of some of the most intense side-by-side racing in years, and even more dramatic moments than ever before. You can visit NASCAR.com/tickets to purchase tickets and make it to an upcoming race near you. We ride along with the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he is also talking about the temperature in the car and it getting very warm, but he was a little more specific as to where the heat was.
It's getting real hot under my left foot. My right shoe's fine, the left one's on fire. Come on.
And guys, a lot of the drivers and teams starting to talk about the heat that's here in New Hampshire. I know we've mentioned it several times, but it's going to become a factor in a 300-lap race. 5 laps to go here in this stage. And they also, the contact we saw earlier for Dale Jr. on the left front, that came from contact with Daniel Suarez towards the beginning of the race. Parker, I think you've heard a couple of teams mention maybe some worries about the engines and the heat.
Exactly, Marty. As we come down the end of this stage, I've heard the 4 car of Kevin Harvick, the 41 car of Kurt Busch, and the 48 car of Jimmie Johnson all come across radio to tell their crew chiefs that their cars are overheating. So, Steve, not only are the drivers hot, but maybe some of the teams missed it on actually how much to cool those engines here.
Well, that's just it, Parker. You know, all of your notes when it comes to a racetrack can be affected by the ambient temperature and how much grill opening. You know, while you know how much air is going through that grill, if you assume it's 65-degree air, it's going to cool the water much better than 85-degree air. So we'll have to see how many crew chiefs make adjustments on this first pit stop 4 laps away in the stage. They could pull some tape, but the heat is also getting turned up on the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He is the next car up in front of this 78. We mentioned he made a little contact with the wall earlier. Now he's going to try to save this lap with only 3 to go in the stage. He needs to stay in front of the leader.
He doesn't want to go a lap down and miss out on the opportunity of being on the lead lap when the caution comes out. There's the gap between Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who's currently running 22nd, and we go back to the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. Now Martin Truex Jr. with 2 laps to go. Pit road is closed. 2 laps to go in stage 1. And a great battle as it looks as though Denny Hamlin got out of the groove and a little bit slow there for the 11. So Hamlin losing a spot to Jimmie Johnson. He goes back to 9th. Jimmie Johnson up to 8th.
Denny Hamlin way out of the groove. Like you said, almost looked like he had some kind of a problem, but he was able to get back going. And he's lucky the other guys behind him, Harvick and Mcmurray, weren't close to him, because that would have moved him out of the top 10, would not have gotten any playoff points.
One more lap for Martin Truex Jr. The gap between himself and Kyle Larson, 2.5 seconds. Guys fighting to stay in the top 10. Harvick, he wants to stay in the top 10 because stage points are very important if you want to advance. Jamie McMurray running 11th right now. But it's Martin Truex Jr. looking for his 19th stage win of the year. He has dominated.
For the 19th time this season, stage winner.
And there you have it. Martin Truex Jr., his 19th stage win, and that definitely helps him out as he moves into the round of 12. Those stage points continue to add up.
Rick, you know you got your stuff together when the spotter knows how many stages you've won. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
That's a 59th playoff point, by the way, this team's earned.
And those carry over into each round if they are still eligible. So 59 playoff points for Martin Truex Jr. He's just taken another step closer to the championship in 2017. He wins stage 1 in Loudon. the playoff drivers and the points that they have earned in stage 1. So Martin Truex Jr. continues to add to the point lead that he has, and the ones that needed it, those are the ones who weren't able to get stage points. Marty.
And Rick, with that stage win, Martin Truex Jr. now has 59 playoff points. Just incredible what this team has been able to do. Handling-wise on the car, Cole Pern said, hey, did you move the track bar on that? He said, never touched it once. Said he could use a little bit more turn in the center. Air pressure adjustment, that's it for the 78, Kelly.
Same for Kyle Larson. He said if I could just turn the middle a little bit better, I'd be okay. He's a little bit too tight there for Goodyear Sunoco fuel. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch said, I need a lot of help here, man. He needs more grip. He's also a little bit too loose. There was a chassis adjustment on the 18.
Race off pit road brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game. Holding his position, Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Busch able to grab a spot as Brad Keselowski grabs 3. Domination continuing for Martin Truex Jr. He was able to win his 19th stage of the year in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Let's go to Rutledge Wood.
Rick, you know I'm no stranger talking myself into places that I shouldn't be, and I found a great one. We're up here at the Granite Ledge. Check it out. This is an awesome hospitality area. I found some friends up here at Odyssey Battery, and they've got their whole mobile bar set up. Tons of people here, but the greatest thing that they have is right over here. Check out this view, you guys. That's what's so cool about the Granite Ledge. You can see almost all of the track up here, but you know what you get a great view of is these amazing turns, and the modified race that went on here yesterday happened to be one that Ryan Newman loves to race in it. And Steve, you know better than anybody else how great these modified races is. What do you think it is that Ryan Newman loves so much about it?
Well, I just think these cars are nothing like anything else you see race. These cars have huge tires, big motors, so much grip. This is really like Daytona to these cars. They actually run restrictor plates, they draft. It is a great race. But hey, Rod, I got a question. What do you got in your backpack, man? Like, what, you got some snacks?
No, well, you know I did get a backpack for my daughters, but it's filled with waters, and there's a couple hot dogs for later. If you guys want one, I'll save you one.
I like it, but that is a great view. I mean, look at it. There's room to hang out, have an adult beverage. They look like they're relaxed and having a good time, Rut.
It's not as cool as your view, but it's pretty awesome up here, guys.
I do want a hot dog, by the way, Rut, if you want to grab one of those. Already, as we look at the storylines for this race, Truex Jr. winning stage 1, Stenhouse Jr. hitting the wall in lap 7 and 88 degrees. It is very warm here in September. And the field Now approaching the Geico restart zone, and a little different perspective on this restart. We're going to ride along with Denny Hamlin on the front bumper.
All the way down, using the apron right there on the exit of turn 1, but look, he's losing time to the cars on the outside. Now down into turn 3, currently underneath the 48, so he has to run right on the bottom of the racetrack. The 48 will come into view right here behind the 77 as that top line gets a run off from turn 2.
They're stuck on the bottom right now. These air pressures are low. This racetrack historically, it's very difficult to get going on restarts with low air pressure. Denny Hamlin stuck on the bottom. We can see right now the bottom is not where you're going to want to be on restarts. Trying to make it work, coming back though.
Saw him even on the apron there, as again, this is on the left front corner of the 11 of Denny Hamlin, and he dives even below the yellow line. So on the apron, trying to find any type of grip.
But look at the momentum up the top. The 77 easily goes by the 48 of Jimmie Johnson. That's what they're trying to do, Rick. Hold the 11 down. Don't let him get right back into the gas. Don't give him all that real estate on corner exit.
It's also right along with Ryan Newman in the 31 as it's sorting out. Hamlin was running 8th. Ryan Newman, he's running in the 18th position. Right now you see Dale Earnhardt Jr. to his outside.
Yeah, Ryan Newman he's all the way back in 18th. As you mentioned, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 21st, the only playoff contender behind him at the moment.
And that's the problem. You see the 31 at -10 on that playoff leaderboard on your left. You said he was running the 18th, but you know, every other playoff car except for Ricky Stenhouse is in front of him. These cars are just so competitive. The numbers for these playoff cars are just unbelievable. Out of the race today, Rick, these cars have won a total of 25 races here in New Hampshire. Well, 21 of them are of the cars that are currently in the playoffs.
Well, look at this gaggle of cars right here. The 41, Kurt Busch, 3 of Austin Dillon, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, all those guys, all of them playoff championship contenders, all in one wad.
Well, we talk a lot about the playoff cars, but on the right-hand side of your screen, you see Brad Keselowski, Matt Kenseth in battle for 4th. Well, right behind Matt Kenseth, that 77. We've talked a lot about Erik Jones, that rookie. What a year he's having. I truly think he would have been easily in the playoffs if it wasn't his rookie year, if he had a little bit more experience to start at the beginning of the season, because Kelly, the second half of the regular season, Erik Jones struck me as a playoff-bound car competing for wins. Think about Bristol, where perhaps he had the best car, but he went up against Kyle Busch.
Well, yeah, and Steve, a lot of that comes with they're now returning to track, so he has experience, and that is what his crew chief Chris Gale and I talked about before the race. He said now we actually have notes to build off, especially coming to a place like here. He said it makes a difference when we can unload a car off the truck already in qualifying trim, where Erik doesn't have to go out there and figure out the track before we even get a baseline. They have that baseline. He said every time we come back to a track, he sees huge improvements in the 77. Obviously now with 9 races to go, their main focus is getting to victory lane.
Great point, Kelly.
You remember Erik Jones was on quite a streak. He had 6 straight top 10s up until Chicago, where he finished 33rd. So to your point, Steve, starting to figure it out just a little bit late. Got him not too far behind. But look at this battle for 18th.
Ryan Newman on the outside of Dale Earnhardt Jr. And so Jr. working to get that position using the low line. We see Austin Dillon in the 3, and then the 5 of Casey Kane trying to stay out of the wall.
So every week you hear the drivers running in 17th, 18th, 19th say it's way harder back here than it is in a lead, and this is why. This is a dogfight back here. I know it's not for the lead and not for the win, but I promise you, racing like this is way more difficult than what Martin Truex Jr. is doing out front. Marty.
Always a hornet's nest in the back, isn't it, Jeff? And for Dale Earnhardt Jr., they spent a little extra time on pit road getting that left front fender fixed. We made mention of that damage he had early on in the contact with Daniel Suarez. We ride along with Dale Jr. in his final start at New Hampshire. They do feel like they got that left front fender fixed, so they feel like the 88's back in good shape. And some fun battles all over the racetrack, Rick. Kurt Busch and I believe that's Ryan Newman battling out up there.
Yeah, and every point, every position, 1 point. And these drivers are fighting for those positions and those points. Casey Kane, Austin Dillon, Ryan Newman, all running together They want to get in front of the other. They want to get those points. They want to push the other guy back so that they don't get the point. It's so important. With just one race after this one, before 4 are eliminated, they've got to get as many points as they possibly can.
Well, how about Kasey Kahne right here that we're looking at from the rear bumper of Kurt Busch's car? You look at the playoff leaderboard, -6. He has 6 points out of a playoff position, so he needs to find a way to find 6 more positions. Remember, every position is a point, and the other problem is these cars are running in the teens from 11th to 20th. Well, guess what? At the end of stage 2, 0 points will be awarded to anybody outside the top 10, so they continue to fall behind.
And Steve, at the tail end of that pack was the 3 there who came in here on the bubble. And one thing I noticed him doing was doing that kind of diamond. You see Dale Jr. going by Ryan Newman there in the bottom of your screen. He was using this diamond to get off the corner. And one thing he said after the first stage was that they're just not wearing their rear tires as much. He's able to drive off the corner straighter. You see him try to turn a little bit lower below there, off of 2, off below the 5 of Kasey Kahne, and get that power down as he gets beside him. That's what the 3 car is doing well. And if you're going to have a car that's good on the long run, it's got to keep that forward drive off.
Marty.
A little bit further back, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we talked about the lap 3 contact with wall. When they came down pit road, they too, Rick, fixed that right side of the car, but they're still running in 21st position, and they've made the emphasis again. No more mistakes today, guys, either on pit road or on the racetrack, but they did get that damage on the right side fixed to where they're very comfortable with it for Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
And at the end of stage 1, it was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. that was the last car on the lead lap, as 2 cars from the same organization fighting for a position. That's Kasey Kahne and Dale Jr. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. fighting for the possibility to advance. There's only 4 that get eliminated. He doesn't want to be in the bottom 4. There is the gap between the top 2, Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. Our aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. 2 cars up front, and by the way, they are both Toyotas. Well, it's not out of line then to look back the last 3 races. The July race in 2016, only 2 laps. Toyota wasn't out front. the September race last year. 20 laps that Toyota wasn't out front. Go to the race earlier this year in July. Once again, 11 laps. The only time that Toyota wasn't out front. You look at the last 3 races, 96% of the laps were led by Toyota drivers. They have dominated here at this flat mile track.
Rick, you could have gave me that little update before I set my fantasy team. I mean, how about a little help?
So far, every lap, with the exception of one, Kyle Larson, the only lap led that wasn't by a Toyota. Here's the Toyota driver update. Where are they running? Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, those two have been 1 and 2 this entire race with already 103 laps complete. Matt Kenseth, top 5. He has been excellent at this racetrack ever since he moved over to Joe Gibbs Racing. Erik Jones and Denny Hamlin all in the top 10. Marty.
And Rick, to show you how the Toyota camp works, you wouldn't know it from watching today's race, but last year, Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn came here in July and absolutely struggled, just couldn't figure out this racetrack. Martin told me lately, we've been unlocking the key to this racetrack. How have they done that? This setup they're running today, the base of it is actually Carl Edwards' setup from 2016. They put it on last July. They went out, led over 100 laps in that race, almost won here. Then they ran it last fall, led over 100 laps in that race and almost won here. And today on their way to doing that same thing here at New Hampshire. So that's how the Toyota team wants. They literally put that entire setup on their race car just blindly, and it worked so far, and they're still using it today. That's how well these Toyota teams work together, and Martin Truex Jr. very thankful for that this afternoon.
And I'm guessing that everyone's probably wanting to get Carl Edwards on speed dial and say, okay, wait a second, what was that you told them?
Well,
I don't know.
They may not have told him.
Yeah, exactly.
They keep those things pretty quiet.
Well, I'd look at Matt Kenseth when we talk about cars that I think I had circled to really watch when we came here to New Hampshire, and Matt Kenseth in his 20 car was one of them. It seems like every race when you go back and you watch his name, that race car was in the conversation, whether it was getting passed for the lead last race in July or just consistently running up front, but currently in the 4th position. We'll have to see if they can make some adjustments as the race goes on.
When it comes to playoffs, I think we always want to see clutch performances in any sport. And so Dave Burns asked Matt Kenseth about that very thing earlier in these playoffs.
Matt, in racing, what defines a clutch performance to you, and how important is it to be clutch in the playoffs?
Yeah, usually we just use the clutch to leave the pit box. You know, you get in gear, you drop the clutch, take off.
That would be your clutch performance.
That's the clutch performance.
How important is having a clutch in the playoffs?
It's important if you want to leave your pit stall, so you don't have to shut the motor off and get it pushed.
Let's talk some clutch performances in other sports.
All right, what was the question again? I'll give you a real answer.
That is the humor that we get out of Matt Kenseth. He has a very dry sense of humor, but obviously having some fun with Dave Burns.
Well, Dave, welcome to my life. I've been friends with Matt Kenseth for a long time, and that's pretty much how every conversation I have is with Matt Kenseth. Everybody thinks Matt is, remember the commercials where Matt was the robot?
Absolutely.
And that's what everybody thinks about Matt, but he is so funny. But he has been so good at this racetrack since he's joined Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, I mentioned he was a driver that I was going to watch. Well, in 9 starts with that organization, 3 wins, 6 top 5s. Even more importantly, how about that average finish? Almost inside the top 5. That is a platform of consistency. Ranks #1 in basically all those categories and a few more. Matt Kenseth knows how to run well and consistently well at this very tough racetrack.
And so close to winning here in the first race of the year. So, this is a typical Matt Kenseth race, keeping himself in position. Then eventually, the way it normally works is he'll get himself in the lead at some point, and then they just have not been able to execute on that this year. They're going to have to find a way moving forward. Parker.
Well, guys, one guy I have my eye on is the 7-time champion of Jimmie Johnson, who currently runs in 7th place right now. Before this race started, he told me our car is great on the long run. And sure enough, as we came to the end of stage 1, he was turning lap times within the top 3. Most of the last 20 laps of that stage. So I'll be keeping an eye on this 48 as we get down towards the end of this stage, if he can replicate those. And I've been noticing now his lap times improved and started to find himself in the top 5. Now, for more that the 7-time champ is doing off the track, let's head to Rutledge.
Thanks, Parker. Yeah, it was a busy week for Jimmie Johnson. He went down to Florida, the Naples area, to help out Lowe's and help some of their employees clean up their neighborhoods, from working on generators, cutting trees down, installing AC. It was all part of the Hendrick Relief Foundation that they do over there at hendrickrelief.org that people can still donate now. But an amazing effort by Lowe's, and Jimmie Johnson, some of his friends, went down there to try and make a difference after Hurricane Irma.
And that's the type of things that you see out of most of these drivers. They're always wanting to help out, trying to be philanthropic, and that was a great situation for Lowe's and Jimmie Johnson to help out those that needed a hand. Win the 43 car now through October 3rd. Hustle over to any of the participating stores, grab some Smithfield, Nathan's, or Eckrich products, and get entered to win a replica of the 43's iconic 1970s Superbird. For details, go to wintheking.com. Out front, it's Martin Truex Jr. The gap between the 78 and the 18 is now 0.8 of a second. Then it's Kyle Larson and Matt Kenseth running third and fourth. Brad Keselowski back in fifth. Kelly.
As we look just a handful of spots behind that, and you see the 21 of Ryan Blaney comes here off an 11th place finish at Chicago, and while they have not had a top 10 finish here at Loudon, they're poised to do that today. His crew chief Jeremy Bullins tell me they think that they've adapted pretty well to this track, so he felt optimistic. However, he did say that he felt like this round one, these first three tracks they face in the playoffs, would be their biggest challenge. So this is a team, a car that's hoping to get through this round and then really looking forward to getting back to some of those mile-and-a-half tracks where they think they will thrive. Right now, Ryan's saying he's not bad. He just can't go anywhere, Marty.
Kelly, remember race number one of the playoffs for Jamie McMurray. Spun in the middle of the race, was able to come back and finish top 10. Today, it's just been a very solid day for Jamie, falling back to 18th at one point right now in the 10th position for that race team. Struggling with the race car, 2 free in, too tight in the middle, and 2 free off the corner. You know, Matt McCall told me, listen, I think round one shapes up very well for us. We can point our way in, but round two, where we are in points, I think we're going to have to win to make it to round 3, Kelly.
Well, Joey Logano's playoffs hopes were dashed at Richmond, but they've had a tough weekend. Remember, they didn't make it out for qualifying, so to add insult to injury, they had to sit out all of happy hour, but still his crew chief Todd Gordon told me that he felt pretty good about the race car that they had. So starting from the rear, they're already up 28 positions, just outside the top 10, and as Todd Gordon predicted, Joey been able to make that up on track, but Todd Gordon prepared to pull a strategy move if needed to let this team go for the win. That's all they have left with these 9 last races. Their goal, getting back to victory lane.
Kelly, we saw the personality of Matt Kenseth. Let's go to a special nonstop brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game.
NASCAR Heat 2.
And the Penske drivers having a little bit of fun there with NASCAR Heat 2. We saw that Joey Logano was running in the 11th spot, not a part of the playoffs this year. He's just outside the top 10. Erik Jones inside the top 10, running 6th. Another one of the drivers that's not in the playoffs. As we get a closer look at Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch currently 15th on right now the track, and just outside, or just inside and outside, as we see the 41 and the 3, inside and outside of the top 12 as far as the playoffs go in the round of 12, which is coming up after Dover.
And Austin Dillon in this 3 car, remember, he knows what 1 point means. 1 point kept him from transferring last year when he and Denny Hamlin were separated by a point. Denny Hamlin transferred to the next round, and Austin Dillon was not able. So that spot right there, that's that point. And that switches it. Austin Dillon now to the good, and the 41 of Kurt Busch not.
That's just how quickly things change. Those two fighting for position on the track. They're also fighting to get into the round of 12. And with that one pass, it changed Austin Dillon into the top 12 and the 41 out of the top 12. Parker.
One guy that's about to fall into their clutches is the 4 car there of Kevin Harvick. Really struggling with that race car. Remember, he started this race in 6th, fallen all the way back to 14th, and most of that has happened on the racetrack. He told me before the race he was worried about the long run pace of this 4 car, that they were losing grip too quickly, and right now he just has no rear grip, and he's plowing the front and at times chattering the front. So that race car is just really not doing anything that he wants right now, searching around the racetrack to try and find grip. But Jeff, when the race car is doing all those things, what do you focus on to tell a crew chief like Steve what to do with it?
Well, I think that's where Kevin Harvick is so strong. I think Kevin will be able to pinpoint exactly what they should be working on, because Kevin's smart enough to know you're not going to fix the entire car. You're not going to fix loose, tight. You're not going to fix it all. So Kevin has to make a decision. Where am I best served? What do we really need to work on? Because we're going to have to make a sacrifice and not try to fix everything.
Lap traffic coming into play once again for the battle up front. Martin Truex Jr. trying to hold off the 18, and the 18 with a good run at the bottom of the track. Sliding up the track was Kyle Busch. Truex Jr. just in front still. Now the gap under 0.3 of a second separating the top 2 for the lead.
The 17 car, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. hopes these two battle it out for the next 22 laps, because he's only a few cars in front of the leader, Martin Truex Jr. And while we were watching this battle, the 13 of Ty Dillon had to come to pit road. He had a winter net issue, so he was black flagged, had to come to pit road. They serviced the race car and fixed that issue, and he's back on the racetrack now, 3 laps down.
And we see this battle for the lead, and I find it interesting still on lap 129, that top lane is still the preferred lane. We keep wondering if that top lane with the sticky stuff is going to wear out, but currently it hasn't. They're still running the same line that they ran when this race started, and that's why it's so hard for that 18 to pull that pass off. You saw him underneath the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. He just couldn't make the pass because that top lane just has more grip than the bottom at the moment.
Closing in on the back bumper of Chris Buescher in the 37. Buescher is already scored a lap down, hoping not to go another lap down. And once again, the 18 is able to close the gap on the 78. But Truex Jr. will negotiate by Chris Buescher, and then it will be Kyle Busch's turn to try to figure out how to get by. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. A very warm autumn day here in Loudon, New Hampshire. Well, Sunday night is football night. Tonight, Derek Carr leads Raider Nation against Kirk Cousins and Washington. Mike Tirico and Dan Patrick. They will host football night in America, 7 p.m. Eastern only on NBC. 78 and 18 were able to get by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the 17, and so now a lap down is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with 14 laps to go, and it's been an interesting battle between the 48 and the 11. Seems as though Denny Hamlin might be getting a little bit frustrated with what's going on with the 48 of Jimmie Johnson in front of him. Parker.
Well, guys, a big topic coming into this race is where the 48's running. Would that outside groove continue to hold grip with that sticky stuff throughout this race? And I think we're starting to get an answer of what's happening at outside groove.
Just real quick, little reminder out there about that sticky stuff not being up there real high in that top groove.
And basically what Chad is talking about is that sticky stuff is starting to come away. It's starting to peel away at the top end of it. And so they've also let Jimmy know, just to remind him, stay low, stay in that sticky stuff as he tries to hold off Denny Hamlin here off turn 4. Real tight they get together.
A little bit of contact there as Denny Hamlin might be getting a little frustrated with the 7-time champion.
I mean, it's just a combination of Jimmie Johnson trying to turn down the hill, trying to find that grip, and Denny Hamlin trying to go up the hill to find that grip.
Jimmie Johnson's not going to give him the spot. Door to door once again as these two continue to fight for the 7th position.
And there's 11 again all the way on the very bottom of the racetrack trying to find that grip. Up into the 48, almost touched Marty.
And Jeff, Denny getting frustrated behind the wheel, as Rick has mentioned. Take a listen on the radio. Here's what Denny had to say to Mr. Johnson.
Only diamond if you're clear.
And there you go, Denny finally getting by that 48. But it was a frustrating few laps. And Jeff, this can be a frustrating racetrack, can it? Because there's just enough racetrack where the guy on the outside can make it frustrating for the guy on the inside.
And Denny Hamlin was letting Jimmie Johnson know, had his hand out the window, kind of like, what's going on, man? Why are you racing me like this? And Jimmie Johnson saying, because we're racing for a championship.
That's right.
Like, I'm supposed to race. So it's just a difference of opinion. Certainly the 11 car looked a little bit quicker, but Jimmie Johnson's job is to try to hold him off. Tend to go in this stage.
I was going to say, this is racing. It's not, oh, by the way, you have a faster car, I'm going to let you go by. No, they've got to work at every position that they are able to get, and Denny Hamlin had to work for that spot. Parker.
Oh, guys, I was just listening to 48 radio as that pass went down. Things were a little cooler on their side. Not much said by Jimmy, but Chad came across radio and told him, with the gap you have with the car behind you and only 10 laps to go at this point in the stage, try and move your line around, try and see what you can make happen in that 48 car for the last stage here. Core heads there right now.
Well, Parker, that's a pretty good idea, because right now Jimmie Johnson doesn't have anything to lose. There's nobody right behind him. So go try something. Try to run the bottom. Try to find something else, because if it doesn't work, you're not going to give up ground to the car behind you. But it looks like to me Jimmie Johnson hasn't given up on the effort to try to get back by the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin earlier has talked about you see the best and the worst in the people when the playoffs start.
Well, I think for some drivers, the playoffs can probably bring out the worst in them. I think some drivers, it brings out the best in them. I feel like the playoffs bring out the best in me personally. Through each season that I've been part of it, we've been in contention. Very few years we've been eliminated because we haven't just performed good enough. There's always a little bit more focus when it comes down to September, October, November for myself. So the guys that brings out the worst, it's the ones that panic. It's the ones that has a bad race or a bad first half of the race, and they see their season flash before their eyes and they end up making a situation worse.
And so the pass has been made. Denny Hamlin in front of Jimmie Johnson, and now with just under 6 laps to go, Martin Truex Jr. has about a second lead over Kyle Busch, looking for his 20th stage win of the season.
Well, this isn't the first time that these two cars have made contact here at New Hampshire. If you go back, it was on a restart where the 48 and the 11 made contact, and it started right here. The 48 trying to get underneath the 11 squeezing him down, trying to hold him off. They make contact on the exit, and then under yellow, they weren't quite done letting each other know that they were disappointed with one another.
Jimmie Johnson came over to talk with Denny Hamlin after the race. Again, that was in the September race a year ago.
Playoffs. That's what happens with the playoffs. And here's another issue with playoffs. The 31 of Ryan Newman trying to save his lap with 5 laps to go. But Martin Truex Jr. is going to make it a point. Lapping a competitor is what Martin Truex Jr. needs to do, and he easily rolls by the 31. And what's going to hurt Ryan Newman is if the 78 passes the next car in front of him, then the 31 will not even be in the free pass position.
Yeah, right now, the car that he just passed, he's already multiple laps down, so that doesn't affect just yet. But here he is underneath Dale Earnhardt Jr. Once he gets by Dale Earnhardt Jr., now Ryan Newman's mission is to go try to get by Dale Earnhardt Jr.
3 laps remaining in stage 2, and Martin Truex Jr. trying to put Dale Earnhardt Jr. a lap down. Again, the free pass for the highest scored car not on the lead lap, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. wants to hang on to that position, but you know that Ryan Newman's going to fight him for it.
I don't think it's going to matter, because I think the 78 is going to go up and pass the 47 relatively easily here in the next 2 laps. So I think there's going to be more than just the 31 a lap down. And here comes Ryan Newman. He knows. He's racing because he knows how important that position is.
Those 2 were side by side. And again, Newman trying to fight to get by the 88, but at the same time, Truex Jr. wants to get by the 47 of A.J. Allmendinger to put him a lap down.
This is the second week in a row that Ryan Newman and his team have been lapped with just a few laps left. And last week it was for 2 laps down, and that pretty much eliminated them from having a good finish. So he knows how important staying in the lead lap is, and that's why he's putting so much effort into it.
And don't look now, with 1 lap to go in stage 2, the 20 of Matt Kenseth up to the 3rd position. 150 laps in that final stage. The 20 will need to be dealt with. He is going to be it, and we have a wreck on the backstretch.
4 car in trouble.
Here's Kevin Harvick. Everyone trying to stop, but there's contact. The 41 gets into him. He couldn't see. Also piling into them.
The 78's in it as well. The 78, 88 is backwards on the backstretch as well.
They were sideways as the 4 was sliding sideways. Now there's more contact made as the 78 and the 88 trying to get going the right direction. On the last lap of the stage, the 78, Martin Truex Jr. gets caught up in it.
That will make the 18, who somehow got through the accident.
That's going to be the biggest thing.
All the smoke that the 4 car made as he slid sideways coming out of turn 2 caused a huge issue. The 41 couldn't see, ran into the side of the 4. The 33 also came in there, and Jeffrey Earnhardt couldn't see, ran into the 41.
Yeah, these cars are actually hooked together right now. You can see Kevin Harvick's trying to, he has the car in gear, trying to get the car moving forward to get unhooked from the 41.
And now as the safety crew is there, let's look back on how this happened.
So Austin Dillon and Kevin Harvick were battling for position, and couldn't tell from that view if there was contact or not, but Kevin Harvick goes around.
And you see the smoke, as you mentioned, Rick, basically blinding on the backstretch. None of these cars can see as they come through. A couple cars already into the wall. Probably couldn't even see the wall through all that smoke.
And Kevin Harvick was wide open in the gas, trying to spin those rear tires to keep from going all the way around and make contact with the wall, and that's why there was so much smoke. And so the 33 got in the back of the 78.
Wasn't a lot of damage to the right front of the 78, but then right here, so the 88 and the 78 are both going to try to get going in the same direction or get going in the correct direction. They both put it in reverse. Boom. Damage on both cars. Larson, he did the right. He just stopped. So y'all get it figured out. I'm going to come through after that.
It's going to be bad as far as the 88 because that's where you put the fuel in, where that contact was made with him. The 78 was on the side that is opposite where they fuel the car.
I think they were both in the left rear quarter panel.
Was it left rear quarter
somehow
panel?
Hit left rear to left rear. As difficult as that is to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Go low. And we're in it. All right.
So definitely damage to the right front fender on the 78.
Yeah, it is the left rear that they're going to make contact with here,
we're
too.
going to hit left rear to left rear right here.
And drivers just can't see that well out of the back of the race car.
And so the red flag is going to come out as, again, the cars are locked together.
Look at this view right here. riding along with Busch. You can see he has no idea where anybody is, and he committed to going to the top, and Kevin Harvick was sitting there. He came out of the smoke, and there the car was sitting. Big implications for these playoff guys.
So the question I have now, the 41 I think is damaged beyond repair, but the 4 of Kevin Harvick, you mentioned it, he was in gear trying to get the car unstuck from the 41, because I think the 4 is actually repairable on pit road and can continue. We're going to have to see, though, whether if the tow truck can get him unhooked. But if Kevin gets out from the rule, then I believe he has to go to the infield care center, and then the 4 at that point would be done for the day. So we're going to have to see if the driver, I can't tell if Kevin's still in the race car or not.
Pretty hard contact with the right front wheel, too, so you got to make sure, obviously this team is going to look at the suspension and everything that goes with that right front.
Yeah, there's definitely more damage behind that right front tire than I saw initially, and it's kind of pointed in the wrong direction. So,
well, while all of this chaos was taking place on the backstretch, the 18 was able to thread the needle and get through, and ends up the Stage 2 winner. Just the second caution of the ISM Connect 300 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And the cars that were involved in this caution, one of those being pulled back into the garage right now, the 4 of Kevin Harvick. Those in yellow involved in the playoffs. So Austin Dillon affected, Denny Hamlin, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., as well as Danica Patrick, Jeffrey Earnhardt, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., all involved in this wreck on lap 150. And what an incredible move it was for the 18 of Kyle Busch to thread the needle and just get by, and then he went on to win Stage 2. Listen to the radio.
Roll on there. Stay in front of Matt. There's enough room there, right? Probably an inch.
And when he said an inch, take a look. We have a camera right by where the 4 stopped.
He was not exaggerating. So you can see him roll right here and just barely is able to slide through.
And remember, that's in smoke. This is how close it was.
Look at this shot. Look at that.
And right there, Kyle Busch comes through. And again, we want to look back at how the 4 got turned around. The 3 is just below him.
Certainly contact right there from that view. Certainly contact. 4 goes around right there. You can see Kevin Harvick's wide open in the gas, spinning those rear tires, trying to keep it off the outside wall, and that's why all the smoke.
And I'm sure that with that contact from Austin Dillon, once again, we will hear the silver spoon comment that Kevin Harvick has talked about with Austin Dillon, and the fact that his grandfather is the RCR owner. Kevin and Ty in a Camping World truck race. Ty turning Kevin, and then the chaos ensues. So the Dillon brothers having a little bit of a feud with the 14. He stopped in their pit stall, trying to make it more difficult. Richard Childress was not happy at all. And then it continued on. This was in the Cup Series a year ago at Texas. The 4 got into the back of the 3 and into the wall hard. There has been contact between these 2 drivers, and they have continued to fight it out verbally. And now let's go to the Infield Care Center and Marty.
And Kurt Busch out of the Infield Care Center. We saw your view, and there really was no view, was there? Nowhere to go, Kurt?
Wow. No, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's tough when you're running where we were. We were just trying to limp it to the stage 2, and I heard car spinning off 2 in my ear. I saw smoke up ahead. A lot of times they'll come back up, and I tried to leave a high side or a low side, and then boom, as soon as the smoke cleared, I'm looking at Harvick's door. I mean, my teammate. And we're running for playoffs, both of us. And it's just a shame that the handling's off and we're both running where we were. But we were still going to fight all the way to the end, but now we don't have a chance. I mean, I cannot understand the bad luck that we're having.
Well, now they go to Dover and they'll have to gain some points there. Good track for you, though, there, Kurt.
Yeah, we'll have to all in, you know. We'll go there with everything we've got like we have been. We got to find the setup that'll make that car cut. That'll make it go through the center of the corner and carry that speed on exit and give it our best.
All right, there's Kurt Busch out of the Infield Care Center, and he's fine. Kelly?
And now I'm up with Kyle Busch's crew chief, Adam Steves. Adam, they say sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. It looks, though, like you guys have a little bit of both going for you today. What's been the feedback from the driver of the 18?
Well, we've had plenty of bad luck this year, so a little good luck is nice for a change. But, you know, we've just been a little bit off on the long run. I feel like we made a good adjustment the first stop, and the track's changing now. Probably need to come back off of that, and certainly our main competition was that 78 car. I still felt like we had some room to improve on our car. Hopefully we can make it a little bit better, and 20 was coming on strong there late, so maybe we can stay in front of him today.
All right, we'll wait for them to come to pit road for the end of stage 2. Marty?
Kevin Harvick out of the Care Center, and any reason you think for the contact from the 3 for you?
You know, I don't know. You know, I know as I got sideways there, I tried to get the thing mowed down and pointed in the right direction, and it snapped back the other way, and you know, I tried to lock it down, and it was too far up across the racetrack. I knew I was probably worse off at that particular point. So once it turned back right, I was in trouble. I should have just tried to keep it left, but I couldn't really tell where I was with all the smoke and everything that was happening. But just got hit from behind and spun out.
Despite all that happened, it seemed like you might be able to continue, but you had to get out of the car, which means the day is done, correct?
Yeah, we couldn't get them unlocked from each other for whatever reason. The cars were locked together, so our mobile one Ford was stuck. And we couldn't get her to back up anymore. I ripped reverse out of it trying to get it to go backwards, and then it was just stuck together.
Obviously a frustrating end for Kevin Harvick here. They have gone to Dover, though, in the past, Rick, and won when they needed to. They might have to do that again next week.
So, Rick, just to clarify, with the crash procedure this year, there's that 5-minute clock. There's a bunch of things. But one major part of that is if you can't return to pit road by driving your vehicle, if you need assistance to get the cars unhooked, which is what the 4 need, then your day's done. The wrecker helped you get your car unhooked or needs to tow it back, you can't continue. So, as you heard, Kevin Harvick right there said he couldn't get the car unhooked from the 41. He needed assistance from the wrecker. All done. He's going to have to fight again next week in Dover.
The other thing that I heard from Kevin Harvick is he does not think that there was contact initially between he and the 3, or himself and the 3 of Austin Dillon. So the fact that I made the comment about those 2 and the previous engagements they've had in contact, it looks as though it was just Kevin Harvick spinning on his own. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official soft drink of NASCAR. Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. And by Verizon Go 90. Road to Race Day is now streaming on go90.show/road to race day. Beautiful shots of the Northeast as we see now the cars rolling once again. Want to make one more thing as far as the contact between the 4 and the 3. And we heard Kevin mention he got plowed. He did get run into by the 3 of us, and Dylan, I don't think he was as vocal about it during that interview, but there was contact made there. And so the 3 and the 4 getting into it, they were fighting for the 14th position when that contact was made. So the 2 were fighting for, again, a spot on the racetrack and a position, another point, which are so valuable.
Well, this is Harvick's first DNF ever here, and this is where we go back to the regular season matters. So the points that Kevin Harvick earned, and all these playoff guys earned, gives you a little bit of an opportunity if you had a good regular season to have a bad race. So think about what's happened in the past. Somebody would have a bad race and you'd be out. Now, if you've done a good job in the regular season, you have a little bit of points to lean back on.
60 points available for the race. 20 of those come in Stage 1 and Stage 2. Kyle Busch gaining the most of those points at 18 already in this race as they're under 150 laps to go now. Kyle Larson and Mart Truex Jr. both grabbing 15. I think the question will be how much damage to the 78, and will he be able to fix that and be as competitive as he was at the beginning of this race?
This is where the win and you advance really takes the pressure off the 78. While I do want to fix it and be competitive, that win last week in Chicago has guaranteed those guys a spot in the round of 12. And we're hearing with the accident, the way it works in the scoring, there's not going to be a free pass car. And the reason I say that is because with those DNFs of Kevin Harvick and Kurt Busch, it really zooms the light on those other cars right around the cut line, and that is the 17 of Stenhouse Jr., who's in 19th, a lap down, and Ryan Newman, who's in 18th, the last car in the lead lap. So they're going to have to continue to fight. I know their days haven't been good, but there's an opportunity now to leapfrog some guys on the points.
Marty.
And Rick, the 78 damage, you see the left rear damage. We talked about that when he backed into Dale Earnhardt Jr. That is Cole Pearn's main focus. So when they come down pit road, that is their first repair. And they sort of had a procedure here of what they're going to focus on first, second, and third. But they're going to worry about that left rear first. And see, because these short laps here, going to be pretty quick pace laps. They're not going to have a lot of time to fix this 78 either.
No, and the first thing they need to do, as Rick mentioned, is that fuel filler. So make sure you can put fuel in the race car. That has to be their #1 concern. And then after that, then it'll go back to aerodynamics, tire clearance, and things like that.
And again, they cannot add anything other than the tape as they come to pit road. Marty.
Matt Kenseth, the very first stall here on pit road at New Hampshire, finds himself now in second position. Top of your screen, going to be 4 tires here. He said the car hung on really well. It also fired off pretty good. A little too tight in the center. He said exit, though, at the end of that run was outstanding. Kelly?
Kyle Larson in the 42 said his entry is good and his exit is good, but his middle is just too tight. They're going to make a wedge adjustment. Chad Johnson actually saying we're going to take a big swing at it. 4 tires and fuel, and the 18 at Kyle Busch. Kyle's asking for more longevity out of the 18. They're actually going back on adjustments from the last time they came to pit road.
Race off pit road brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth holding their position. Kyle Larson and that 42 team with a great stop. They gained 2 spots on pit road. We want to check in with Kyle Busch, the Stage 2 winner, brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game.
Hey, Kyle, it's Burton in the booth. You got a moment to talk?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
It's going good up here. How about that close call on the back straightaway getting through that wreck?
Yeah, that was a little closer than I would have wanted it, but fortunately we were able to come through unscathed. So, you know, keep all the marks off this M&M Caramel Camry and keep it up front. That's what it's about today.
Well, it's very hot today. It's the hottest race ever in this race in New Hampshire. How's it in that race car?
It's not too terrible in here. It's definitely warm, but I like heat, so I'm a desert rat. I grew up with it, so today's a good day. Everybody else can sweat it out, and we'll just have a nice one.
Thank you, Kyle, for taking time. Good luck, buddy.
Thank you.
So Kyle Busch will be out front for the restart when we get ready for the final stage. It was his 13th stage win of 2017 already. Make sure to tune in on Wednesday. It's NBC Sports on Sirius XM, NASCAR Radio Channel 90. And Kyle Petty is going to join the morning drive. Again, that's at 9 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays on NASCAR Radio Channel 90, Sirius XM. Rutledge.
Rick, it seems like a good time to remind fans that Kyle Petty is not in the booth with you if you're on Twitter. But you know what else it's a good thing to remind you guys of? There is a very special young man who's out here on the backstretch, Zachary Macedo. He is back, the 7-year-old. A lot of people remember him here for the race in July, down from Leicester, Mass. His mom, Kristen, and his dad, Stephen, been bringing him here for 4 years. He races quarter midgets at Thompson Speedway, and he is, tell you what, the heart and soul of this backstretch. He's always doing the flags back here, but you guys know Zachary, huge fan of this sport. This is what he wants to do one day. I think be a race car driver too. But Rick, I think we should try to help him bring us back to green again this year.
Rick, it's so warm. Our man is shirtless on the backstretch.
You got to be.
September in New Hampshire. You don't think I'm thinking a hoodie, not shirtless.
Well, he's a quarter midget racer, and he can. You know, Kyle Larson grew up racing quarter midgets. Ryan Newman grew up racing quarter midgets, so maybe he will be racing this racetrack one day.
Goal of the young man is the field all in line behind Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth. So Martin Truex Jr. will restart 18th at the back of the lead lap cars. Larson and Erik Jones making up row 2. Keselowski and Johnson in row 3. Field approaching the Geico restart zone.
Not a good restart for the 20 car on the bottom lane. Matt Kenseth shedding spots, just did not get a good launch.
Kyle Busch hold on to the lead. Erik Jones challenging. A great restart for the 77. Erik Jones, the 21-year-old, still searching for his first Monster Energy Cup Series win. A lot of congestion through 1 and 2. Johnson on the outside of Larson. Top 5 now for Jimmie Johnson. Kyle Larson running in the 5th position. Johnson is 4th.
Kyle Larson still working, trying to get that bottom to fire off. Rolled a ton of speed through the middle, but Jimmie Johnson launching on the outside on that top lane.
Larson will now follow him on the high line and diamond the turn as he dives down to the bottom for corner exit. Parker.
Well, guys, that line you see Jimmie Johnson running right there on the high side is a line he wants to run, and he wants the car to work better there, and he's been discussing with Chad throughout this race on how to make the car work in that high lane, and specifically down in 3 and 4 as they head down into 3 right now. They've been talking about how the sun is really on that part of the racetrack and that it's just a little bit slicker, and therefore trying to just find how he can make that outside lane work because he just doesn't seem to have the speed on the bottom.
And again, the 42 of Larson diving to the bottom, trying to make that low line work. Momentum for the 48 keeps him in front.
So you can see Kyle Larson, what he's trying to do is get as close as he can and then turn left, get alongside of him. That part of the corner, all that worked well. What he hasn't been able to do is enter side by side and use that roll speed through the middle of the corner to clear Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie Johnson saw it coming, knew what was going to happen, kind of gave up the spot on corner entry. So once Kyle Larson got side by side, the intention was just to intentionally overdrive the corner, slide up in front of Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie knew it, just gave the spot up.
Marty.
And guys, a little further back, Mart and Truex Jr. has that damage fixed. Cole Pearn needed 1 trip down pit road. They had 4 guys working on the right side, a couple guys on the right front as well, and they got the left side damage fixed in the rear, and that right front damage, and already rolling back through the field, as you can see. Restarted 18th, now 14th on the lead lap, not out of this ball game yet.
Small decisions, Rick. Small decisions. Well, Cole Pearn only came to pit road 1 time. What that meant was he was able to line up with the lead lap cars. So 18th and 18th on the racetrack. If he would have pitted a second time, he might still be in the 18th position, but he would have had to line up all the way at the tail end. So that small decision to get it fixed in just 1 pit stop is going to pay off for the 78.
And so many of these passes that we have seen made today have been so difficult for the guy trying to make the pass. And we just noticed that Matt Kenseth easily was able to get by Erik Jones for second. So Matt Kenseth now up to the 2nd position, chasing after Kyle Busch.
Yeah, we're on the 11 car, the Toyota Cam, right behind the 78. Remember last week, the 78, they came back from that speeding penalty to win the race. So don't count this team out.
Marty.
Denny Hamlin saying a moment ago he thinks he might have a vibration. Mike Wheeler told him they hit him good, meaning that they think they got all the lug nuts tied on that 11, but something we're going to watch, the vibration on the 11.
And one thing that's going to be more comfortable for Denny Hamlin, not that a vibration ever is, that he has his normal crew chief Mike Wheeler on top of the box. So as they work through a vibration, just we talk about communication. As we hear them discuss it, as they work through that communication, just the calmness of having a normal voice is going to help the 11.
But what, Steve, so many times we hear the crew chief say, hey, we got them all tight.
I believe they are fine, but they cannot tell like we used to.
Believe it was fine, we couldn't tell. There you go, he's made the decision. That's the decision that Denny Hamlin's having to make, and it's an awful decision to have to make, but you just have to make it if you believe that's what's best.
But I think he has to make it. I mean, he's currently 6th in points, plus 41 where he currently sits. Coming to pit road is going to cost him a bunch of points, but having a wheel come off and hitting the wall will be 20 or 30 points. This might be a 5 or 10 point decision.
Don't make it worse. Make sure you do not speed on pit road.
Marty.
And remember, guys, they did finish 4th last week at Chicago, so they had that to fall back on a little bit. But yes, Denny Hamlin making that decision to play it safe here. And you're right, Steve. You know, sometimes that's the right call. You don't want to hit the wall, and play it a little conservative here for Denny Hamlin and 11 car. Going to make sure they get all the lug nuts tight here on the 4 Goodyears they're putting on the car right now.
Jeff, one thing that's very different, unlike the first 2 stages of this race where everybody can make it on fuel, this final stage at 150 laps, everyone's going to have to pit. Now, Denny Hamlin cannot make it from here, but maybe he'll get fortunate. Everybody could maybe pit, then a caution could come out. You never know how these last 150 laps are going to fall.
And what Denny Hamlin wants to hear right now is, yes, the lug nuts were not tight. The last thing you want to hear is, we didn't find anything. There was nothing wrong, because then you feel terrible as a driver that you made the wrong decision. He knows what he felt. There's no question that he felt it. The question is, did he need to stop or not?
So that'll be the question that the crew will have to answer. Did they get all the lug nuts tight? Kyle Busch out front as we go NASCAR nonstop. NASCAR Race View gives you access to features that let you feel like you're at the track. Get live stats, leaderboard, as well as team communications. Get Race View for the entire playoffs for only $9.99 when you visit NASCAR.com/raceview today. Riding along with Ryan Newman, he's currently running 15th, and there are only 2 cars behind him on the lead lap, A.J. Allmendinger and Austin Dillon, who runs 17th, the last car on the lead lap. Kyle Busch out front has almost a 2-second lead over Matt Kenseth, who's running second. Erik Jones, Kyle Larson, and Brad Keselowski all in the top 5.
Well, Rick, we've got to have 122 to go. We've already seen the first and the second stage complete. Now we're in the final stage, and it has been a hot one. 88 degrees here in New Hampshire today. Toyota continues its dominance at this 1-mile track, but how about that big wreck at the end of stage 2? 5 of the playoff cars were involved. The 3, 4, 11, 41, 78. The 78's made some repairs. The 11 has recovered. The 3's still on the racetrack. I think the big news is the 4 of Kevin Harvick, the 41 of Kurt Busch in the garage, out of the race, Rick. They're going to lose a lot of points today.
And the 4 above the cutoff line, currently in the 10th position as far as the playoff standings and leaderboards. And again, the 11 having a problem with the wheel, so they came to pit road, Marty.
And Rick, it was indeed a loose right rear wheel for Denny Hamlin in this race team. So good call by the driver to catch that and find the issue. But now they're 1 lap down, but only 1 lap down, and that's a key. If they can somehow get past Ricky Stenhouse Jr., they will then be in the free pass position with a pretty quick race car. So Denny Hamlin now trying to get his lap back, get back on this lead lap.
Well, I said it, Rick, you don't want to have problems. But if you do have them, you want them confirmed. You want, as a driver, you want them to say, hey, look, we found the problem, because now you did the right thing. This is the playoffs. Any small mistake can keep you from winning a championship. That confirmation that, yes, you made the right decision, it means a ton. Now you put that behind you. Now you have the task at hand and go get it done. And remember Darlington, when he had the task at hand, Denny Hamlin, what he was able to make happen. So that's his goal today. Come back from that lap down, get himself back in position.
Well, and that's the car that Denny Hamlin's trying to catch. And I'm telling you, he's not trying to catch it from a half a lap back. He's only 3 cars behind with fresher tires, running faster lap times. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has done a nice job battling from that early contact with the wall. But you need to have some lucky breaks, Rick. And right now, a caution would be a lucky break for Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
And the other lucky break for these guys are the people that were in the wreck. But who can take advantage of it? Now it's out there. Now there's an opportunity to make something happen. Turn this race around. Propel you to the next race and hopefully to the next round in these playoffs. Who's going to grab this opportunity?
Yeah, but Martin Truex Jr. is trying to say, hey, I might have been in the wreck, but I'm not out of this. He just passed Joey Logano for the 11th position, has his sights set now on the 14 of Clint Boyer, so already almost back in the top 10.
And you know who else knows he's not out of it? Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Erik Jones. They know this 78 car has had speed all year long. They know he was fast in this race. They're watching this 78 car, keeping up with him. Parker.
Oh, guys, one guy who's also not out of it would be the 3 car of Austin Dillon. He's 17th, last car on the lead lap right now, but he's had a little bit of an issue inside that race car right now.
Yeah, just tell him to put some front brake in it if he's loose in. Front brake in. We cannot understand you. Might as well quit talking. Just keep driving.
And that is the issue. The microphone inside his helmet, something has gone awry. And actually, I've had this happen before in my career where sometimes, Jeff, maybe it gets a little bit far away from your mouth, so you have to pull it back. Well, they asked him to do that. That didn't fix it. And then sometimes it's where you get your water on it. Maybe your water bottle spills water all over the mic and messes it up. This last time, just a couple laps ago, they asked him to talk in the corners, and they were vaguely able to make out him saying loose. But just a small issue inside that 3 car as they try to stay at the lead lap here in the playoffs.
Small issue, Jeff, but so frustrating. Communication is key as this track is going to continue to change. Now, I won't lie, though. There's been a few mics over the years I wish I could break. I wish I could have just shut it off on the driver. But, you know, we talk about that sticky stuff. We talked about the track, how it's going to change. Well, how that happens in this last 115 laps. Communication from your driver is key.
And now what Austin needs to do is just slow down his speech and say single words. Loose, tight, don't get too descriptive. Just be very, very simple in what you're saying because they can't hear you completely, so don't confuse them anymore.
Battle for 5th continuing between Brad Keselowski, Jimmie Johnson. Johnson continuing to put together a very decent race here at Loudon, and it's interesting to say it that way with the 7-time champion, but we've wondered when will this team flip the switch and become a championship contender, because he hasn't been competitive with Martin Truex Jr. or Kyle Larson or Kyle Busch this season, at least later in the season. But now Jimmie Johnson continuing to put himself in position to advance into the round of 12. The further he goes through these championships and these playoffs, the more potent he will be if he's able to make it to Miami.
Yeah, I would have to believe that every team wants to keep Jimmie Johnson and his team out of Miami Homestead, you know, having a chance to win that championship. We've seen them step up so many times.
Well, on the left side of your screen, we talked about Denny Hamlin needed to get to the 17 car, not just for the 18th position, but more importantly, to be in that free pass position. So he's done that, but the issue is that the leaders are starting to catch the 3 of Austin Dillon. He's only about 6 seconds in front of the leader. So it's kind of like we saw last week with Kyle Busch. As Kyle Busch laps cars, the Denny Hamlin's going to have to catch him, but currently in the free pass position.
Carolyn Mano had the opportunity to talk with Jimmie Johnson about striving to get that 8th championship, something that has never been done before in NASCAR.
You said you're a realist. How real or possible do you feel that championship is this particular season?
Oh, it's so real. The chances are are very good. Our best tracks, it's about transferring through the rounds, getting stronger as the chase goes on. Our history shows that's what we're really, really good at. And then, you have to still go to Homestead and race, and the slate, starts over there. Last year it took us until the last lap of the race to get in position, but we found a way to do it and got it done.
And guys, I can tell you he still has those same sentiments today. I was talking to him before driver intros, and I said, how does this playoff feel compared to last year? You're limping in again. You're don't have quite the speed. And I didn't feel like they've had the speed the last 2 weeks that maybe they had last year. And he looked at me and said, no. It feels exactly like last year. And I don't think that's good news for the rest of this field, because that 48 is dangerous when you give them even a sniff of a championship, right?
Absolutely. And Jimmie Johnson has won a race every single year there have been playoffs. So he continues to have success when he is a part of the playoffs. Marty.
Rick, a lot of people counted Martin Truex Jr. out of it when he was in that wreck a moment ago, but I'm wondering how out of it is this team really? They're in 11th, chasing down Clint Boyer right in front of him. That'll put him in the top 10, meaning he will have gone from 18th to 10th on this run. Truex said the car not handling quite as good, but it's not bad. He said it just doesn't feel like we had the speed that we had before, but they have made a nice rally. And then Cole Pern, right after Truex said that, said, well, that was the fastest lap on the racetrack, so you're doing something right. So 78 may not be out of this yet for this first ever New Hampshire win.
Mart Truex Jr. has battled back to 11th after restarting at the very end of the lead lap cars. Kyle Busch out in front as we go NASCAR nonstop. .101 laps remaining in the Monster Energy Cup Series racing from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Formula One is also on NBCSN after 19 years. Who wins the final blowout at Sepang? The The Malaysia Grand Prix, Saturday at 2:30 a.m. Eastern, 11:30 p.m. Pacific. That's on NBCSN. Ryan Newman currently running 15th, but right now just about 7 seconds in front of race leader Kyle Busch, so in jeopardy of going a lap down. Want to listen into the spotter coverage from the 78 team of Martin Truex Jr.
I'd say the bulk of the field is lower from what I've seen. Definitely not be able to make any ground in the third groove. Yeah, kind of like last race, it seems like.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less.
Well, Jeff, you mentioned it. One of the spotters' big parts of information these drivers are going to need are when the groove moved around. You just heard right there the 78 letting them know, hey, it looks like that third groove's gone away. You need to maybe try that lower groove. But think about Martin Truex Jr. here, so dominant, over 650 laps led, but still without a win.
That march to the front is kind of stalled out. He got to Clint Boyer, got within about 7 or 8 car lengths and hasn't gained any more. So obviously the damage that they had, the car just isn't as good as it was, or he was so advantaged by being in front of the pack. Now he's back there in a pile. I don't think that's the case, because he would have been able to run the 14 down and just hasn't been able to do it.
Currently 17 cars on the lead lap. The final car on the lead lap, one of the playoff contenders in Austin Dillon. And he right now is just about a second in front of Kyle Busch. So Kyle Busch continuing to reel in his competition and trying to put them a lap down. Let's get a few updates, and we'll start with Kyle Busch and Kelly.
And Rick, remember, it was mistakes on pit road that cost Kyle Busch a potentially good finish last week at Chicago after they swapped pit crews. Well, I talked to crew chief Adam Stevens about it. He said, look, we didn't make the decision to make that swap over one race, so one bad race isn't going to have us switching back to our old pit crew. They came here with a clean slate. He said, I want them to know there's no cloud over them. I feel good about my decision. 2 stops, they were both clean, Marty.
Kelly, his teammate Matt Kenseth is second. I talked to Jason Ratcliffe, his crew chief, this morning. He said, I honestly thought we weren't that good in practice on Saturday. But then again, I thought we weren't that good in practice here in July. They almost won that race, trying to win the race today. Their biggest problem right now, Kelly, they can't hear him on the radio. It's almost like the mic is too far away from his mouth.
None of those issues for the 42. Kyle Larson, though, used to not feel very good about these short tracks and flat track racing, but he's worked really hard to get better at these tracks. He says it's finally all coming together and clicking, and now these tracks he used to dread, he actually looks forward to coming to, running in the top 5.
Brad Keselowski back in the 5th position. He told me earlier this week, we're taking a different approach to the playoffs this year. We're all about consistency. We can't really win when we need to, so if we just go through, make no mistake. So far, they're doing that, Parker. Top 10 at Chicago, having a nice run here, although he said he's losing rear grip as this run goes on.
Jimmie Johnson runs behind him in 6th place, but he's not only getting line advice from his spotter, Earl Barban, he's getting it from his crew chief, Chad Knaus, using some really cool technology that the manufacturers provide by showing him where the track is coolest. And he told Jimmy the track is coolest just before the 3rd lane, and that's where he's running right now, Marty.
An impressive 7th place run for Jamie McMurray right now. Impressive because they missed 30 minutes of the final practice yesterday, and he told me, I don't know what we're going to have today, but they have certainly developed this as they've gone on throughout the day, and the car's gotten better throughout the day as well, Kelly.
What's the mindset for the first-time playoff team of Ryan Blaney? Well, they're trying to treat this the same every week, and they want to have fun with it. Jeremy Bullen saying the worst thing you can do is ramp up the intensity to the point where people start making mistakes. We got to have fun with it, not make it any more stressful than it already is. Right behind him is the 24 of Chase Elliott. Remember, it's Kenny Francis on top of the pit box for him today after his crew chief was suspended. They have 5 races together before, so that part is good. The challenge for Kenny Francis, he's never called a stage race. This is his first time today, Marty.
Kelly, we've documented 18th to 11th for Martin Truex Jr. He said the car just not handling the way its handling was earlier in the race. He said also the sticky stuff on the racetrack seems to be going away because he's starting to chatter the tires, but this race team certainly hasn't changed their approach of being aggressive, Parker, trying to get back up in there and score stage points in this final round here.
Driver trying to get back up there is Casey Kane, currently running 13th right now. He's been as high as 6th in this race very early on, but has since faded and been mired in the top 15. Remember, he's working with a new crew chief in Darren Grubb, who has also never called one of these stage races, and that's been particularly tough, not able to find the handle and the balance on that 5 car, Kelly.
And the 31 of Ryan Newman also hasn't quite had the race they'd like. They're going to need a little bit more help, but they've got experience to lean on. And Luke Lambert, as crew chief, said, if there's one thing that I've learned is you can't let the spectacle of the moment get to you. You can't play to someone else's strengths. Play to your own, Rick.
Great job, guys. Newman again running 15th, and Allmendinger, the only car on the lead lap, in 16th, not in the playoffs. Kyle Busch out front. Kyle Busch continuing to lead the ISM Connect 300 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And 88 with some issues and a lot of damage to the left rear.
Yeah, well, he was in that accident earlier on the backstretch, so you see he's down on the access road now in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Obviously, he's had a left rear tire come apart. Seems to be flat, or a piece of sheet metal's rubbed it, I would imagine, from the damage.
And that was in turns 1 and 2 for the 88.
You working the bottom here with a run. Get real low, real low, real low. Bunch up coming here. Stay real low.
Yeah, flat. Looks like a left front tire. I thought it was a left rear because that's where the smoke of the damage was, but it seems like it was a left front tire on the 88.
Obviously felt it on the straightaway and just moved out of the way.
They go to work on the left side of that car, again involved in the incident that took place on lap 150. And that's definitely one of the big storylines of this race. Out front, it's Kyle Busch. He has a 1-second lead over Matt Kenseth.
And this gap between Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth has pretty much remained the same once Matt was able to get back around Erik Jones. But this gap is about the same distance that Matt lost on that last restart. So Matt's got to put that in his memory bank. And if he's able to restart, if we get a late caution, if he's able to restart again next to Kyle Busch, he's going to have to find a way to have a better restart.
So again, I mentioned the storylines. One of the big ones is the wreck at lap 150, but the heat is definitely a storyline here. It's the hottest September race that's ever been run here, so the driver's having to deal with that, and the caution has come out now for the third time. Toyota led all but one lap. Harvick and Kurt Busch out of the race because of that crash on lap 150, and we're seeing debris on the racetrack. So the caution has come out. Debris on the racetrack now. With this caution, everyone can come to pit road, and they can all make it from here as far as fuel goes. And the free pass will go to the 3 of Austin Dillon, one of the playoff contenders.
And I mentioned that's what caught Denny Hamlin. He had done a nice job past Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but he was not able to get this caution before Kyle Busch had caught Austin Dillon.
That's right, 2 playoff contenders that weren't in wrecks that are still a lap down, Denny Hamlin and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. You see Denny Hamlin with the water bottle. He just has the hose in his mouth. It's sitting there just hanging.
The real question now is, what adjustments do you make? And if you're a crew chief, are you betting it's an 80-lap run? Or will this yellow breed more yellows? And are you looking at a bunch of short runs to the finish? Those are all the decisions that these crew chiefs and drivers are going to have to make with their final adjustments.
But you're going to have to put 4 tires on right here, aren't you? I mean, there's nobody going to put 2 on, you wouldn't think?
No, I don't think so. These tires basically have 60 laps on them. I think 2 tires would definitely be the wrong decision. Everybody's going to put on 4.
And we've seen 2 tires work here in the past, but this tire is a completely different tire. It wears out a lot quicker, so with this many laps, it would be very difficult to do.
I did mention the crash on lap 150. Again, Kurt Busch and Kevin Harvick out of the race. This is what Kevin Harvick had to say when he was interviewed by PRN, the radio network here.
How did that happen?
3 just turned us and just got sideways there up off the corner, and I thought I could get it locked down, and then it snapped back to the left and came back to the right and came across the racetrack, and I tried to lock it down too late and should have just tried to lock it down a little bit sooner.
And that caused this chaos where the smoke all the way across the track. The 41 caught up the 33, 88, 78. Drivers blinded, as now under this caution, team's ready to come to pit road. Marty.
And Matt Kenseth hits his stall quickly because he is the first stall here on pit road. He eases into his stall. He said the car had a little bit more chatter in the center of the corner, too tight in the center as well. You see the wet adjustment trying to free up the car, 4 Goodyear tires, and Sunoco fuel to make it to the end here, Kelly.
After big changes, Kyle Larson happy with his 42, said the balance is pretty good and it cuts the middle better, just an air pressure adjustment for the 42 and the 18 of Kyle Busch. He said he was just fired off a little bit too snug. You see the chassis adjustment there. 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel for the 18, who's all the way at pit out.
A lot's been made about that 18 pit crew, Rick. Remember, that's a new crew starting last week. Held the lead off pit road.
Big loser, though. Matt Kenseth lost 2 spots, going to restart in 4th.
Race off of pit road brought to you by Kroger Click List. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road.
Yeah, we mentioned the race off pit road. We saw Matt Kenseth. He came in second and came out fourth, and I said he was the big loser, but maybe not. Remember, he restarted where Kyle Larson is right now and gave up a spot. So maybe starting behind Kyle Busch on the outside lane is actually beneficial to Matt Kenseth.
Rick, the restarts here are always crazy, but there's no more stage breaks. There's no more guarantees. This perhaps could be the last restart of the race. We don't know. With 76 to go, the give and take is over.
Final 75 laps of the race. Great restart for the 42 of Kyle Larson. And can he take the lead away? No. Kenseth able to move up to third in front of Erik Jones. What a charge by the two of Brad Keselowski on the bottom of the racetrack.
Matt Kenseth knows as well that this could be the last restart, so he's got to do everything he can to get by Erik Jones as quickly as possible.
But it's just like the restart you mentioned before. He lost a little over a second in the first few laps after restart, was never able to reel that back in over the long run.
And I said to get by Erik Jones, I meant Kyle Larson.
And guys, when Brad Keselowski came in for this last stop, he said that's the best the chassis has been all day long. They made a very slight air pressure adjustment. And one thing Paul Wolfe told me, he said, here in July, we really were caught off guard when the sticky stuff wore off the racetrack. We weren't ready for it. Today, we're set up for that. So this is the part of the race they think they'll be better in. The two having a nice run here at New Hampshire.
Brad Keselowski still looking for his second championship and still definitely in the hunt as he runs in the top 5.
And Rick, when you look on the left side of the screen, that playoff leaderboard, look all the way down to the 3 of Austin Dillon, only 2 points above that cut line. But remember, he was the free pass. He's back on the lead lap. There are more points available in front of him. Can he close out these 73 laps and continue to get points?
And what is Jamie Mcmurray thinking right now? Clint Boyer made it 3 wide, put Jamie in the middle. Jamie's like, hey, man, I'm in the points here. No, I don't want to be 3 wide.
Oh, and a little contact there. Mcmurray loose after the contact from Clint Boyer in the 14.
They've had Ryan Newman behind him. He's worked himself up to 11th. Remember, he got lapped earlier.
And here comes Chase Elliott in the 24.
I think you're going to start to see more and more of that contact. You just can't lose time being stuck behind another car. You give them a couple of chances, but if you think you're faster, I think that's not the last bumper we're going to see over the course of these 70 laps.
Chase Elliott, 2 of the younger drivers. Him and Erik Jones still looking for their first win in the Monster Energy Cup Series. Take another look at a little bit of contact here from the 14 getting up into the 1.
You can see the 1 was losing a little bit of ground to the guys in front of him, so he was struggling right in the middle of the corner, and Clint Boyer wasn't willing to wait.
Mcmurray on the inside and Chase Elliott on the outside in the 24, and Mcmurray trying to stay in front of that 24, but here comes Chase Elliott to make the pass.
And staying calm at this point in the race is very difficult to do. You know that you're losing spots, and these are the guys you're going to have to beat going into the next round, and Jamie Mcmurray knows that consistency is his key.
And Ryan Blaney on the outside in the 21 here has impressed me all day as we see the 78 make his way around. And so Truex Jr. is going to take that spot away, moves up to the 7th position. But Ryan Blaney has run comfortably in the top 10 all day long.
He has had a nice run. You see Clint Boyer now trying to get by that 21 on the right side of your screen. That battle continues with Mcmurray and Chase Elliott. Nice run by the 24 car. It's been a very odd week for this car. They were penalized after Chicago for some aerodynamic enhancements with tape on the body. They lost their crew chief, their car chief, some points. This is a backup car after an accident on Friday, so they're doing a very nice job. While they're not up leading laps or contending for the win at all, a run anywhere near the top 10 has to be seen as a successful weekend trying to compete without their crew chief or car chief.
A little bit of distraction that the team had to deal with. Again, this is a wrap that's on the spoiler on the back as well as on the quarter panel.
And that's it. I mean, it's a culmination of pieces. There's tape on the spoiler, but there's also this piece that's in front of the right rear quarter panel. The total of those pieces definitely is an aerodynamic advantage. NASCAR had to step in. They can't allow a team to basically skirt around the rules. That was obvious. They were trying to find an advantage, Kelly. They know it's outside the rule book. They came down with penalties this week.
Those penalties included loss of crew chief and car chief for this race. On top of that, remember, Chase wrecked in practice Friday, so they had to immediately move to a backup car, and in spite of not having a chance to run that car until qualifying, still came away 14th. They felt like that was a small victory for him. But this is a good run for Chase. He calls this his toughest track of this first round of the playoffs. Said it hasn't been a good track for him in Cup, Xfinity, K&N, anything he's run here. Said, I don't know why it's so challenging. Maybe just because I didn't grow up on these short, flat tracks. But he said, believe me, if I knew what was so hard about this place, I'd go out and fix it. But right now, a really solid run for the 24.
And Rick, there's been a lot of conversation in the garage. I talked to NASCAR between practice holds, the 24's penalty, some encumbered finishes earlier this year. I think NASCAR is basically has the feeling that the garage is not getting the message, that they are going to enforce these rules. They don't feel like they're correcting them fast enough throughout the garage. So I would expect the next penalty we see to be enhanced even more. I think they have that in the rule book in that L1 penalty. You know, it's a window of penalty. The 24s was on the lighter side. I think that the next guy to have an issue, it's going to be much heavier because I think they're sick of talking about penalties. They want to see competition on the racetrack.
Yeah, and also, let's make it perfectly clear. Those were advantages on that 24 car. They were not, I know, hey, it's just a little bit of tape, but just a little bit of tape is a lot of downforce. They can't allow that to happen.
31 of Newman fighting very hard, trying to get into the back of the 24 and not lose that spot, but he does. Matt Kenseth, he's been able to get by Kyle Larson now, and so Kenseth has made his way up to the second spot, Marty.
And yes, look who's in second now. Matt Kenseth, the master at New Hampshire. He calls it his best racetrack right now of all the tracks. Said we're better here than anywhere else. Right now in second and better on the longer run a little bit than his teammate Kyle Busch. So we'll see if he can track him down. You know, Matt has had 9 races here at New Hampshire with Joe Gibbs Racing. He's won 3 of those, trying to get his 4th win with Joe Gibbs Racing. A little further back in the field, Martin Truex Jr. has moved up smartly. They made wedge adjustments both on the right side and on the left side on that last stop. Restarted 10th up to 7th. Martin just radioed to Cole Pern a moment ago and said, hey, feels like we had it at the beginning of the race. We're back to normal now, despite that damage on the left rear and the right front of the 78 car. Nice little battle here between Jamie Mcmurray and Ryan Newman.
McMurray and Newman. McMurray running 12th. Newman is 11th. And now McMurray trying the middle line. That doesn't work as he's still stuck behind the 31 of Ryan Newman. Kyle Busch is out in front of Matt Kenseth, just under 3 seconds the gap between 1 and 2 as we go NASCAR nonstop. today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Want to take a look at today's Ram Guts and Glory.
Well, I think it all starts with Matt Kenseth getting his first win of 2017, running in 7th position. And can Erik Jones, can he break through and get his win?
Yeah, don't forget about that rookie back there in the 5th position. But how about the drivers that are close to that bubble line? We keep talking about Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Casey Kane back in 14th. Can they capitalize? Can they capitalize on the issues that the 4 and the 41 have had? Remember, their cars are in their hauler. Their day is over, so you got to run up front to gain those points. As we see some damage on the right side of the 34 there, Rick.
Yeah, Landon Castle got loose coming out of the turn. And so a little bit of slap of the wall there for Landon Castle. And that is just behind race leader Kyle Busch. The gap now between Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth, 2.4 seconds. Here's another look at that 34. Look at the hard right that thing took.
Wow. It is way loose. That Kyle Busch, he's like, what's going on, man? Almost got in a wreck on the back straightaway. This is not what you want to see as a leader. Somebody that sideways in front of you.
Very close for Kyle Busch. And again, Landon Castle was the one in the 34 that slapped the wall. Rut.
Rick, we saw Ricky Stenhouse Jr. back there in 19th position. May not have the biggest smile on his face right now as he's kind of getting back on that lead lap. But yesterday he went out to the campgrounds with Trevor Bayne and myself because his friends at Roush Fenway got a nice care package from their friends at the Red Sox. So we took to the campgrounds to go hand this stuff out. It's a really fun experience to get to take drivers out there with the fans, especially when you just get to show them love, give out gifts out there. But those two, I tell you what, have a ton of fans up here. That obvious connection with Fenway and Roush Fenway, it shows through in these fans because there were a lot of people pulling for Ricky this weekend.
And you know, Rick, the three of us sat down with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. yesterday and discussed how they were running this weekend. He was a little disappointed with his car. But then we asked about Dover. That's a track that he feels he can run better at. And he told us that if they left New Hampshire at the same deficit they entered New Hampshire, he thought that would be a successful day. He came in at -4 below the cut line, currently at -6. While I don't love the idea of looking forward right at the top of the show, we said you had to capitalize on every race. If that was a 17's goal, they're close to accomplishing it. But I don't know, Jeff. I would love to capitalize on the mistakes of the 4 and the 41 in their accident. I'm not sure the 17's doing that currently.
Yeah, I think what happens with race car drivers, crew chiefs, everybody involved in sports is that you recognize you have a situation and you try to make the best of it. And so they knew they were in trouble yesterday. They knew they did not have the speed, and they were already moving forward, saying, you know what, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to get to the first round? And all they didn't quit today. They knew what they could achieve wasn't a win, the very best, maybe a 15. So now they have to move forward to Dover and start thinking about the only way forward is a great run at Dover.
So as we see Martin Truex Jr. battling with a 48 for what will be the 6th position, you know, you kind of have to ask yourself, the 78 has a win. You know, why fight back so difficult if they don't think they can get up there and win? Well, first of all, I'm not sure they can. I think if they got a couple cautions, get a little closer to Kyle Busch, maybe they could compete. But the second part, I think, is we talk about this proverbial switch that everybody wants to flip. You want to get in playoff mode. Well, I think the 78's proven you also don't want to take a week off or even a couple hundred laps off. They were in an accident, big deal. Repair it, move forward, prove that we can get better. Who knows, 3, 4, 5 races from now, a repair job like this might be the difference between moving out of the playoffs or not.
Oh, and Steve, it's a great point about the new system and the way points are counted now here in 2017. I asked Cole Pern about that. He said, you know, in the past, if you won in the playoff system, you might change your car rotation. You might say, hey, this is a really good car. Let's save it for later in the playoffs. Now, you can't do that. There's points on the line. You need to go and try and win every week, gain as much points as you can because you never know when you're going to need to dip into that bank, grab some points out, and rely on that. So there's points on the line every week. These guys are all going to approach it with an aggressive fashion, trying to gain all those points they can.
Yeah, Marty, I talked to Cole Pern on Friday, and he told me that last year they won Dover. And it really didn't matter. Like, they won the race, but it didn't help them move into the next round because they had already won at Chicago. So it didn't make a difference. It didn't impact their year. But this year, he said, coming to New Hampshire and Dover in every single race, winning still matters because you carry those points forward with you. So that was the whole intention of this system, is to reward the teams and allow them to race for that reward through the entire year, as opposed to winning a race and now you're moving on with nothing left to gain.
And Marty, how about the 2 of Brad Keselowski?
It's always good when you're running the best you've run all day long with 45 to go in the race. Brad Keselowski right now in the 4th position, but he is starting to struggle on entry. The car very free for Brad Keselowski right now, but having a whale of a run on a day when they honestly thought they would be about a 7th to 10th place car. Right now, Brad Keselowski solidly in the top 4, Rutledge.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? His car chief, Jerry Kelly, actually found himself at a hospital this week with another Penske teammate, Darren Russell, the 21 engine tuner, because they were both there having their second child. Darren had a daughter named Lily. Jerry had a little boy named Jackson. But they were 4 rooms apart, 4 hours apart in Huntersville this week. A very happy week for the Penske family.
Pretty amazing, the fact that from the same organization, they end up in the same hospital just a few rooms away as they were welcoming new additions to their family. And Brad Keselowski, again, running strong, top 5 here. Kyle Busch, as we almost want to handicap these championships and the playoffs as they continue on, you have to applaud what the 18 team has done in the first 2 races of the playoffs. 2 poles, and now leading here at New Hampshire. Still hasn't closed it out to the point where they've got the win, but they have led 147, now 148 laps that they have been out front. As we take a look at the lap leaders, brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Larson. At the top of the show, we mentioned the fact that Toyota has been so dominant at leading laps, and now Toyota again dominating to the point where Kyle Larson, the only other car that's been out front driving a Chevrolet, it's been 1 lap for them.
Well, this 18 car of Kyle Busch, he did not get the finish they wanted last week because they had the loose wheel, then they had the penalty after that. But he's led 44% of these playoff laps so far. So Kyle Busch, and you mentioned the 2 poles. So Kyle Busch, we've talked a lot about Kyle Larson, and we talked a lot about Martin Truex Jr. Well, Kyle Busch, with 2 poles and leading these races, listen, it'd be hard to say that he will not be a great pick to be a favorite to win the championship.
And sometimes you've got to be a little bit lucky as well. Kyle Busch blindly going through the smoke that was put up earlier on lap 150, and it completely blocked the racetrack to where the drivers couldn't see. Kyle Busch squeezes through between the wall and the 4. That close, he ended up winning the stage, because Martin Truex Jr. got caught up in it. At the time, Martin Truex Jr. was the race leader, and then when the caution came out, he was caught up in that accident. Kelly.
And Rick, remember that Kyle started from the pole position for the 8th time this season today, but as his crew chief Adam Stevens says, they haven't always been able to capitalize after having a really good Friday. They need to transfer those into really good Sundays. They've lost races for what he described as a litany of different reasons. Now they're finally looking like they're going to put a whole race together. I asked them to compare themselves to the 78 team. He said, I don't think there's a big speed discrepancy. I think there's a consistency discrepancy. He said, when we're both good, we're about the same. Our mediocre races, they're probably a tick better. We both had our share of bad races, but he said it's the consistency. That's what this 18 team is looking to put together an entire weekend, start on pole Friday and end up in victory lane on Sunday.
And the 5 of Kasey Kahne slow and now stopping on the racetrack. And in doing that,
caution, be ready, guys. You're good here, come on, come on.
He's trying to get onto pit road. He dives onto pit road, and the caution comes out. He was running 13th. Parker.
Guys, it sounds like it's a flat tire on the 5 car. He was trying to get down and just couldn't get across traffic there until the caution came out. But he had slowed down trying to get on pit lanes. We see him coming to the pits here. They're going to change the right side tires right now. There's no pulling any damage out. They're checking the left rear or the right rear there right now. They see something, but obviously they're going to get that tire on and go around the left side. But some sort of tire issue for the 5 right now.
I'm not sure if it's only a tire, Parker. As he was coming down pit road, he was weaving the car back and forth, and the right rear tire looked like it moved forward and rearward in the wheel well. So we're going to have to take a look at this 5 car, but I'm not sure they don't have a broken suspension piece. You see right here, the right rear tire moves very easily, like a track bar or a truck arm issue. You could see it. It should definitely not move that easy inside the wheel well. You could tell that it's not a flat tire. They're underneath the car looking at it. This is exactly what the 5 of Kasey Kahne did not need, having a pretty solid day inside the top 15. See him shaking the car back and forth. That looks like a rear suspension failure to me, Rick.
And the NASCAR official standing in front of the car as they continue to check it, Marty.
Matt Kenseth already in the stall, Rick. He said the ride quality is a little bit better. I'm just too free in and too free on exit. Our left side wedge adjustment, 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel. This will be plenty to get them obviously to the end, and Kenseth hoping his team gains him a couple of spots as well, Kelly.
And Kyle Larson saying that his exit was just too tight, but he had been learning something out there to help his middle a little bit better. There's a wedge adjustment, 4 tires and fuel. Kyle Busch in the 18, not happy to hear that caution coming out. When his crew chief asked him about the balance, he said, really good, no changes.
We saw the official standing in front of the 5, not letting him go because he intentionally caused the caution. As we look at Truex Jr., 2-tire stop to the top of the chart. And the 5 is now in the garage with a mechanical issue, and they received a penalty for intentionally bringing out the caution.
Yeah, NASCAR, if you stop on the racetrack to cause a caution, NASCAR is going to penalize you. If not, every time somebody had a tire go down, they would just stop on the racetrack.
Right, they just want to continue to see it move, and that mechanical issue sounds like a track bar has broken or a track bar mount. You see the rear end moving back and forth in the 5 car, and then he kind of just rolls down here to turn 4 and stop. NASCAR would like to see them continue. Cars could race around them, but this is going to be a huge blow to Casey Kane and what they were trying to do in the points.
Yeah, now the 78 car, you mentioned it going to break. Martin Truex Jr. stayed out, took 2 tires. Well, that hasn't worked very well here in the past as of late. See, no. Matt Kenseth tried it here in the spring.
It hasn't worked, but what does the 78 have to lose? The 20 comes to pit road, takes 2 tires in the spring when the 31 of Ryan Newman wrecks. So he said, you know what, let's gamble. Let's try to get this win. We have a good race car. I like the call, but unfortunately for him, everyone else took 4 tires, Rick. So he was at a major deficit. The 11 easily drives by him and goes on to win the race. But remember, Martin Truex Jr. has a win. He's trying to recover from this wrinkled up quarter panel. He said that he thought his car was pretty good. So he didn't think he could drive from the 6th position. With 34 to go, it's going to be a heck of a battle.
The 11 of Denny Hamlin came to pit road late. He got the free pass, and so Denny Hamlin back on the lead lap, and he is restarting 17th as the field entering the Geico restart zone. 33 laps to go. Two tires versus 4, and way out of the groove goes the 78. Everyone trying to take advantage of that.
How about Clint Boyer in that 14? He might not be in the playoffs, but we know how hungry he is to get a win.
And the caution quickly comes back out. In turn 2, the 38 is turned around. David Reagan.
And Rick, that is a huge break for the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He chose to not pit at all, took the wave around, put him back on the lead lap. So now he's in 18th, same position, but on the lead lap. Maybe he could get a little more of those points. Remember, the 5's in the garage, the 4 and the 41 are out of the race. Like we said earlier, small decisions. That small decision by the 17 could be a handful of points at the end of the day.
Taking advantage of opportunities that present themselves. And right now, with the 4 and the 41 outs, the 5 in the garage, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. mentioned that he wanted to be at least even to where he came in as far as if he was below the cutoff line, because he thinks that Dover is going to be his racetrack, that he can make up ground to be able to advance into the round of 12. Well, right now he is 7 points behind the cutoff line.
He has an opportunity to gain those points. You know, being a lap down, he was never going to gain any points back. Now he has an opportunity. You see right here, it's like to me the car just came around really quickly, almost like he has some kind of an issue.
And a lot of damage to the rear of the 38. So a tough restart for David Reagan as he gets into the corner. Coming off of that restart, we'll have another one when we return. There will be a lot to talk about on NASCAR America this coming week. It is weekdays from 5 o'clock, and on Wednesday, make sure to tune in for the Hall of Fame edition, where the drivers get to hang out at the Hall of Fame, and this week it will be Kyle Larson that will join the crew. Parker.
Well, guys, we're down here at the 5 at Casey Kane, who obviously had that issue on the racetrack. You see the team underneath there. They've actually been welding, and what actually came apart or broke was the front part of the right truck arm, which is why you saw the rear end moving. They're actually under there welding it and hoping to get this fixed if they can get back out there and turn more laps, maybe get some more points on the racetrack. That's their intention here, guys.
It's all about points now. If you're in the playoffs, you want to grab as many points as you can. You do not want to be the bottom 4 at the end of the Dover race next weekend.
And Rick, I'm going to tell you, this player at the front of the field, Clint Boyer in that 14 car who will start on the front row. When we talk about etiquette with playoff cars, I think the playoff cars have to be worried about this 14. He is in a 176 winless streak. Personally, I don't think he cares if those cars are in the playoffs, Parker. He is here to win the race. It's been a long time since he's gone to victory lane.
Exactly, Steve. When you speak that race team, they have one goal in their mind. That is get into victory lane. When you even talk about maybe helping their teammates who are in the playoffs, it's like, maybe, but we're here to try and win a race. That's the intention. But I am surprised to see him all the way up here. He has really fought that race car throughout this race, not able to get the handle and using some very choice words throughout the race, describing it. So I think that race team may be a little surprised right now to be fighting for this win.
Well, listen. He has 2 race wins here. This is the kind of racetrack that Clint Boyer has been very good on, so not a big surprise, but we haven't seen this speed from the 14 car until these last few runs.
Kyle Busch restarting on the outside, Clint Boyer on the inside. In row 1, Kenseth and Truex Jr. in row 2. Great restart for Martin Truex Jr. in the 78, all over the back bumper of the 18. What a rebound this team has made.
Clint Boyer tried to time it just right, tried to get a little bit of a jump, realized it was too big of a jump, backed up, and when he did, the 18 took off, and the guy that got hurt by that was that 20 car right there of Matt Kenseth.
And a caution out one more time.
Yeah, there's a car low in the backstretch there. The 6th Trevor Bayne got spun around. Clint Boyer's going to want that one back. I think he's going to be glad that there was a quick caution.
Get caught up. I think all the tires are up here. Get caught up.
How interesting that now, again, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., 1 and 2. The two have led the most laps. Take another look at this restart.
Yeah, so what we're going to see is Clint Boyer is trying to time this right. See, he went when he thought the 18 was going to go. The 18 knew that Clint couldn't go like that, so he just didn't go, waited for Clint Boyer to have to stop, and then the 18 took off. Smart job by Kyle Busch. He knew the rule. The rule is that the 18 car, once he gets in this green box, the 18 car has got to start the race, not the 14 car. The 14 tried to anticipate when the 18 was going to go, went too early. Kyle Busch saying, nope, can't do it, just going to sit here and wait. The minute he saw the 14 slow down, he launched, knew it would mess that entire inside lane up. Great job by Kyle Busch.
You see Trevor Bayne way on the bottom of the racetrack, almost on the apron, loses your grip, spins around.
Under 27 laps to go. We're going to take a quick break. We'll go NASCAR nonstop. You can keep up with everything that's happening here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Back at New Hampshire, another playoff contender, Jamie Mcmurray, had to come down pit road, take on 4 fresh Goodyear tires. You see that damage underneath Cessna there, the left rear of the car. They made contact on that last restart. They were 14th at the time. Mcmurray said, I think it might rub. I don't want it to rub a hole in the tire. So because they're 14th, only 19 cars on the lead lap, they thought, why not? They came down pit road, put on 4 fresh Goodyear tires. We'll see if this maybe helps them on this next restart, hoping not to lose points here at New Hampshire today, Rick.
Yeah, Marty, and it's oh so important because of what takes place next week. Next Sunday on NBCSN, the Monster Energy Cup Series playoffs will continue from the Monster Mile in Dover, Delaware. That's the final race in the round of 16, and only 12 drivers are going to advance. That race coverage starts at 2 p.m. Eastern on NBCSN.
You can see right here the 4 car, even though he had trouble earlier, he's still 24 points to the good because of the work he had done prior to this race. But then look from the 1 car down, 6 points, 3 points, -3, -5. That is a dogfight. Now, the 41 of Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch rather, and the 5 of Casey Kane, they're getting in a position of almost having to win next week. So Dover's going to be interesting, Steve.
Yeah, and those are cars back outside the top 10, most of them. And how about the front row? We have Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. Remember, Martin Truex Jr. is only on 2 tires. I actually think the 42 of Kyle Larson starting in the outside row might be an advantage right here, Rick.
23 laps to go. Here comes Kyle Larson. Kyle Busch out front. Larson running second. Martin Truex Jr. is third.
going to be so easy for the 18 as he enters in that third lane to just overrun that grip strip a little bit, Jeff. If he puts those right side tires off that grip, he'll easily get passed by the 42. He just cannot overdrive it.
It's so hard to do when you have somebody in your mirror that's pushing you to not overdrive. That's why you have to be precise. Driving a race car, I've said it before, it's not about your right foot, it's about your brain. How far to drive that car in the corner, when to get in the throttle. That's how you go the fastest. It's just not about doing it the soonest and driving in the hardest. It's about doing it at the right time.
How aggressive will they be? Now 21 laps to go. Kenseth still running top 5. He's 4th behind Martin Truex Jr. Erik Jones is 5th. Keselowski, Clint Boyer's fallen back to 7th. Ryan Blaney 8th. Daniel Suarez 9th. Chase Elliott also in the top 10.
You see that 78, how he's really holding up Matt Kenseth right now. Erik Jones in that 77 car trying to make a run. Wow.
Aggressive move by the 20 of Kenseth.
That was just a indication to Truex, hey, look, I'm quicker.
Well, Jeff, you talked about this before the restart, the points that were on the line. I know we can focus on who can win the race, but when you look back a few cars, you look at the 17, the 1, the 11, these cars are back here battling for points, and it is a dogfight back there. You see the 31 and the 48 almost making contact. I think they're racing for the 12th position, but every position is a point.
Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, separated by a little over a half a second. Truex Jr., Kenseth, and Erik Jones all fighting for the points in the top 5.
And you talk about points, look at Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We just talked about he wanted to come out of here where he came in, which was -4. Well, he's gained points. He's currently at +0, the car just above the cut line.
He was a lap down not long ago. Now he's racing for 14th.
He's got Jimmie Johnson in front of him as Kenseth still trying to get by that 78. Martin Truex Jr. has been fighting valiantly. Again, they gained track position by changing just two tires the last time they were on pit road, and he's still hanging on to a top 3 position.
This is so frustrating for Matt Kenseth. You know, just can't find a way around Martin Truex Jr. He knows he's only on 2 tires, but still can't do it. A big run right here, got Truex loose, but still can't execute.
Stays up high just behind the 78.
The racing is so good, but I'm mesmerized by those points as well, Rick. We have 2 cars tied, 1 car out by just 1 point. I keep thinking the next week how crazy 400 laps at Dover is going to be when 4 cars lose the chance to win a championship.
Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, 1 and 2. Make sure to stick around after the race for post-race coverage, followed by victory lap. We'll hear from as many of the playoff drivers as we can, as well as guys like Erik Jones, Clint Boyer, not in the playoffs, but running great today. Marty.
And Rick, we talked about the rally for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and his race team. They've gained points. What an incredible comeback. Remember, they hit the wall on lap 3. They've been dealing with a race car that's been extremely loose all day long, trying to fix the damage all day long. And they've had a radio that's been sticking all afternoon long. Randomly, it will come on. They can't figure out who's on their radio. But right now, in the 14th position, I know as a driver, Jeff, when that radio randomly comes on, it drives you nuts, doesn't it?
Oh, it will drive you nuts, but they just have to focus on the positives of today. And you see the 11 car getting around the outside of the 17, but listen, I think if they roll out of here 14th, 15th place, they're going to feel like that's a win for them where they were when the day started.
And we're showing you this battle back here because Kyle Busch has done a really nice job of not making any mistakes and extended his lead over Kyle Larson by a little over a second, almost a second and a half. Doing a nice job leading the race.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. trying to hang on to any points he possibly can, as Denny Hamlin has been able to get by him. And so now Stenhouse Jr. is 1 point back from Austin Dillon.
And remember, these guys earlier in the race, they were going at it pretty hard and pretty frustrated with each other.
You don't think that will come up again?
Something always seems to come back in a driver's mind. Marty.
13 laps to go, Marty.
Yeah, and you hope these two don't get together again, although they did have a little contact earlier in the race. You know, Denny Hamlin's been quite frustrated, having a nice little rally here late in the race, but he told Mike Wheeler a moment ago on the radio, he said, I just don't know what's going on with our short track cars. For some reason right now, we can't get them to run. They had this problem at Richmond. They wound up with a good finish there. Going to have a decent rally here at New Hampshire as well, but obviously struggling on the short track side of things for the 11 team, and that traditionally has been one of their strong suits, Rick.
Oh, that's so hard. See the one car trying to get by the 17 all the way on the very bottom. We've seen all day this bottom lane. You can make good ground in the middle, but they just can't find a way to get by them. But Mcmurray almost in the side of the 17 car.
And then the 11 back to the 48's bumper. We're going to see how this turns out.
Now the 78's actually pulled away from the 20 of Matt Kenseth.
This was a difficult pass earlier in the race. Denny Hamlin struggled to ever get by Jimmie Johnson. When he finally did, he stuck his hand out the window like, why are you racing me so hard? Well, once again, it's for position. Coming up on the final 10 laps, the last 9 laps of this race, and Denny Hamlin trying to take that spot away from Jimmie Johnson, and finally does. Now here comes the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. also looking to the inside of the 48.
And I love this approach. When you look at the points, you see the 11 at plus 43. You would think, man, just take care of it. You should move through. But much like we talked about the 78, repairing their car and being in attack mode, I just don't think you can ask your race car driver to go protect. I think they are the best when you encourage them. Let them be on offense. Let them pass cars.
You never know what's going to happen in the next race. Parker.
Guys, if you see that 48 fall back right now, think where he ran most of this race. It was really around 6th to 5th place, and now falling back maybe outside the top 15. He really struggled on the short runs. This car has been great on the long runs, but with these last few restarts and losing a couple positions on pit road, it's just not falling in their hands for the 48, and that's a disappointing end to a day where they've really been strong the whole time.
Kyle Busch, 1.6 seconds in front of Kyle Larson. Under 8 laps to go, and what a different story than we saw a week ago play out at Chicagoland.
Yeah, it all started with pit crew issues. They came to pit road because of a loose wheel, and then during that pit stop, the gas man was over pit wall too early. He didn't have a gas can, so that was a penalty. That put him behind after sitting on the pole and having such a fast race car. There's the gas man I talked about. He just could never get back on the lead lap, so kind of meandered his way through the middle of the field for the rest of the day. You see the disappointment on Adam Stevens' face.
But Adam Stevens, you know, said, hey, look, that's our pit crew. We switched pit crews, but we're sticking with them. And they answered a call today. They overcame adversity. They put that behind them and just paid attention to the job at hand. And they've done a nice job today.
Yeah, I said it was going to be about leadership. They've had fast race cars. They proved it again by winning the pole here. But Adam Stevens answered that call of leading this race team. As you mentioned, supporting his pit crew, letting them feel like they could jump over pit wall and do their jobs. They have done that. Kyle Busch has done that on the racetrack, and it has been a relatively uneventful day, leading 181 laps currently.
Under 6 laps to go. Kyle Busch trying to finish it off now. That lap there, his 182nd lap led today. The only car other than a Toyota that has been out front was Kyle Larson, and Larson running second right now.
And Rick, I really talked up the playoff cars and how dominant they've been here at New Hampshire, and they currently take the top 5 positions. But Erik Jones in 6th, Clint Boyer in 7th. How about Daniel Suarez in 9th? We talk about that pit crew swap from the 18. Well, Kyle Busch's old pit crew, they are pitting that 19 car, and they've given that rookie a nice run all the way up inside the top 10.
And how about Kyle Larson running behind the 18 car right here? You know, this could be, if this race ends like it is now, but I hate to say that in New Hampshire. We always seem like we get late race restarts, but this could be his 8th runner-up finish in 2017. So, and by the way, this will be the 2nd here at this racetrack.
That's why Kyle Larson has been so strong. He's been top 3, top 2, almost all season long.
Learning how to be a champion. I think that's what this year has been all about, is that we've seen Kyle Larson in the past make mistakes late in races. We've seen him have speed but not be able to execute. But when you think about how he's won races this year, are the same types of races that he lost before. Late race issues, got in the wall late, pushing too hard, bad restarts. But this year he's been able to execute. And when he hasn't executed a win, He's managed the day, and that's what he's done today. He hasn't led a bunch of laps. He hasn't done anything spectacular, but he's kept himself in position, and ultimately that's how you're going to have to put yourself in position to win a championship.
You talk about manage the day. Look at those points. Man, the 41 is out of the race. The 5 has had mechanical issues, but the 31, the 3, the 17, throw a blanket over them. Remember, there's not going to be room for all of them. When we leave Dover a week from now, Rick, 4 cars, the bottom 4 will be eliminated from the playoff hunt. Next week is going to be crazy.
And the 18 of Kyle Busch coming out of turn 4. He's going to see the white flag. 1 lap to go, presented by Credit One Bank. What a run for the 18 team, and Kyle Busch started the weekend off on Friday, winning the pole convincingly again for the 2nd week in a row in the playoffs. And now putting together another great race. It was advantageous that he was able to get by the wreck on the backstretch to get the stage 2 win, but now he's held off the competition. Kyle Busch is going to win in the Granite State.
Yeah! Way to go, team! Good job. Quite hanging with the driver. Top here again.
'41st win for Kyle Busch in his career. Wasn't that long ago that he battled back from broken bones in his leg and foot early in the season, wasn't able to compete for 11 races while he was recovering. And then after the recovery, he went on to win his first Monster Energy Cup Series championship. Now taking a step closer to his 2nd. Kyle Busch wins in the Monster Energy Cup Series for this is 3rd win in 2017. And how about that high-speed burnout right in front of the grandstands here in New Hampshire? That moment presented by Sunoco, fueling victories all season long. After a win, you see Kyle Busch with the thumb out the window and back in front of the grandstands, quickly making his way to the finish line, where his tradition is to get out of the car with the flag in hand and bow to the crowd. Interestingly, this win comes really with the move through smoke that he couldn't see where the cars in front of him were sideways. And he creates a smoke cloud that you can barely see the Evan 18. And there is Rutledge Wood.
Rick, the fans are going crazy down here for Kyle Busch. The 2 huge moves of the day, both involving smoke. Kyle picking up win number 3 of the year. Rowdy Burns is who it looked like you were coming through that smoke on the backstretch. In that crazy moment, you make through without a scratch on it and come back to win. How did that happen?
I have no idea. But you're right, that was pretty intense. That was some Days of Thunder stuff over there. You couldn't see anything. I mean, it was just a wall of smoke over there off of turn 2. But yeah, I listened to the spotter and basically was told to stop. So I'm like, it sounds like a good idea. And just checked up as much as I could. Of course, I was trying not to get run into from behind. I didn't know who was coming behind me. I know Matt was there. But all in all, just a great day. Great day for this M&M's Caramel team, all these guys on this Joe Gibbs Racing Camry. This thing was awesome. So we ran up front all day long. We executed. We did a good job. We did what we were supposed to do. And it's awesome to win here in the Granite State right in front of these fans. So we appreciate the New Hampshire Motor Speedway and the show they put on. It's awesome to come out here every year. And, you know, it's pretty cool to win here on this hot day.
Congratulations, buddy. We'll see you in Victory Lane.
Sounds good. Right on.
And I will say I'm impressed with the response from the crowd, because Kyle Busch has been so successful and won at so many different levels in NASCAR. And a lot of times the reception he gets after a win isn't as positive as what we just heard here.
Well, we're 2 races in to the round of 16, and perhaps the 2 favorites, 78 and the 18, have checked their box off in the win category, and by dominant fashion. Martin Truex Jr. unfortunately got into that accident today, but it didn't matter. Kyle Busch executed flawlessly. The pit crew was flawless. 187 laps led in a dominant performance by this 18 car.
And so Kyle Busch will make his way to victory lane. We will see him there. But as you mentioned, Kyle Busch with the win advances straight to the round of 12. Impressive run again. Winning you advance, the most important thing in the playoffs, and that is exactly what 2 drivers have been able to do in the first 2 playoff races. It was Martin Truex Jr. at Chicagoland, and now it is Kyle Busch in New Hampshire. Krista.
Rick, he's been here before, but it's been a couple years. New Hampshire's victory lane. But it is the first time Kyle Busch has ever advanced with a win in the playoffs. The last time you were a playoff driver and won a playoff race, it was the championship. So this is something new. We always, when you win so much, we have to look for new things. That sense of relief is new.
It is, and it's just a testament to this team and everybody at Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, it's fun to drive these Toyota Camrys. We know how fast they are, and you know, it's a great opportunity for us to put them in victory lane when we can. So I can't say enough about M&M's and M&M's Caramel, of course, Interstate Batteries, Toyota, NOS Energy Drink, and Cessna, DVX sunglasses, Snickers, Skittles, all of our partners. It's just it's an awesome day for us, and we always want to say that we're remembering those that we've lost before us, and Ted Christopher, who passed this week. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with his family, and of course, certainly want to say thanks to the fans and what they all mean to this New England area and being able to come out and support this track.
And the last time you had a lobster, this little guy behind you was what, just 2 months old?
Yeah, he was about 2 months old, so he was pretty young at that time, and he'll see a lot bigger one today and probably remember it today than what it was a couple years ago.
Brexton, who won? Who won the race?
Who's number 1? Woo!
High five.
Give him a high five.
Yeah.
And the celebration is big for another reason, Kyle, because these guys, your pit crew, yes, they've been to victory lane. They used to pit Carl's car, used to victories, but this is a celebration for them too.
Yeah, no, it was just a great day for our team, and for the 18 team, we were able to execute all day long, and we did everything right. We did everything we were supposed to do, and that's where you end up, and when we're able to do those things. And it was you know, a great race up front too at the 78 there. The 20 was there for a little bit. I think he was a little better on that long run at one time, but overall, you know, we had some really good short run speed there at the end. We were able to get out front there and kind of set the field, set the pace, and that was what we needed to do today.
All right, congratulations. Kyle Busch is moving on to the next round. Woo.
Krista's going to continue to hang out there in victory lane. That will be where we'll hear a lot of the post-race conversation take place. But the guy who finished second, Kyle Larson, another second place finish for the 42 team. It seems as though they continue to rack up second place finishes. Kelly Stavis caught up with him just moments ago.
Was a runner-up finish for Kyle Larson. Kyle, a heck of a restart there with 25 to go, but where did the 18 ultimately have you beat?
I don't know, I felt like on really long runs, you know, I was fairly equal to those guys in front of me. But on the short run there, I could get pointed to exit, but I couldn't get the throttle down. I get loose, so he just was really good. I think the 78 was also really good, but he had his troubles. So the 20 was also good, but I thought we were next best. So solid effort for us. Finished second again with our target share. That's a lot of second place finishes this year, but we'll keep them. I mean, I'm fine with second. You know, second, top fives will get us to Homestead. So hats off to everybody on our target team. Pit crew was great all day. I think we gained spots every time. So hats off to them and enjoyed it. You know, normally I'm struggling on short tracks, but this year we were pretty good.
Well, I was going to ask you about the second place finish. Did they get frustrating, or is it like, hey, compared to how we started the playoffs last year, we'll take this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to win, and you know, second's the first loser, but second's also not bad. You know, it's especially when you get to the playoffs. You know, winning is very important, but also having consistency is just as important. So, you know, we got a fifth last week, our second today with even better stage points today. So that was pretty much the day that we needed. You know, obviously a win would have been great, but second was just as good.
Great start to the playoffs for the 42 team.
Well, it winds up being a third place for Matt Kenseth. Had you had a little bit of track position, you think you might have been able to compete with the 18 for the win?
Well, we had a track position. I just couldn't restart good. You know, every time we had a restart, I'd lose, you know, anywhere from 1 to 4 spots. I felt like down in 1 and 2, no matter what lane I was in, and that really hurt us today with all those short runs at the end. So I need to figure out how to get through the gears quicker and get through that first set of corners quicker, the way a lot of these races play out. In a long run, I felt like we could run with 18 pretty good at the end of the run, as long as the distance wasn't too big in the beginning.
Points racing is never fun, Matt, but was this sort of mission accomplished for the team today?
Well, I mean, if you can't win, you want to finish as high as you can, you know, so if you can't run second, you want to run third, but we really need to win, really need to win bad, so I'm a little let down we didn't get it, you know, longer runs, thought maybe we'd have a shot, but we just need to be a little bit better.
Needs to win, and he's going to his favorite racetrack next week at Dover. Maybe it comes there.
Thanks, Marty. I want to take a look at the playoff picture. With one race to go in the round of 16, Mart Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch, with their wins, will automatically advance. Kyle Larson and Brad Keselowski, because of the amount of points they have, you can only gain 60 points in a race. They also will advance into the round of 12. But we look down at 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, guys that are below the cut line, and what will they have to do in Dover?
Well, first I want to look a little bit ahead of that. I think Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, unless things go really, really badly, they're probably in pretty good shape. But Jamie McMurray, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., you know, Jamie McMurray, 9 points to the good. Stenhouse and Austin Dillon are tied. And we were talking earlier amongst ourselves, like, that will be a great race in and of itself to watch because they run so similar to each other. Ryan Newman 1 point back. So Dover's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, when you look behind Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch and Casey Kane, 17 and 21, why those are possible to make up, it's not just on one car. They have to make that up on at least 2 cars, if not 3, to move out of the basement and try to stay into the playoffs. So I think the 41 and the 5 need to look at Dover as a must-win. While that might not be true mathematically, I think that needs to be their approach. But regardless, we talk about playoff pressure. It was high. It's going to go to an entire new level when we go to the first cut race of the 2017 playoffs. That will be at Dover. And we thought the Magic Mile was slick and hard to get a hold of. Wait till we go to the Monster Mile.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Monster Mile is a place you want to go with all that pressure on you. That place will eat you up.
Well, it's time now for the post-race show with Chris Devoda, Dale Jarrett, and Kyle Petty.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all